The execution block opens a bloody tale where Marquis Laoji's family is publicly beheaded for poisoning and plotting against the seventh prince. The second son is suspected of poisoning the crown prince, leading their entire family to the execution ground, witnessing her parents' tragic deaths with her own eyes. The daughter and her younger brother don't understand why everything turned out this way. They didn't do it, yet someone sneers at their deaths. This guy is the current crown prince, the mastermind who framed them and caused this tragic massacre. He orders the younger brother to the guillotine, while the older sister can only scream in despair. This is Liam. That boy is our female lead's twin brother, who is both weak and gentle. Seeing her brother on the verge of death, the female lead begs for mercy because the boy did nothing wrong. And this girl, in the midst of her ultimate agony, is Lionel, our female lead. She screams agonizingly, begging them to stop her brother's execution. But blood still ruthlessly flows into Laoji's eyes, and now she can see nothing but her brother's head. The excruciating pain in her heart makes her collapse, unable to witness anymore. The crown prince acts as if he's playing a game, sneering when the last one left is the marquise's daughter, Laoji. She glares at that inhumane bastard. He was the one who ruined her entire family and killed her loved ones. Filled with absolute hatred, she wouldn't forgive him, even if she became a ghost. He orders them to finish Lionel off as well. She feels so incompetent. When her brother was bullied, she didn't pay full attention. The shackles of the guillotine have been tightened. Before dying, she deeply regrets sending Liam to the academy only to meet this bastard. The rope holding the blade snaps. Harboring deep resentment in her heart, she prays to the gods to give her a chance to return to the past. Lionel wakes up from the nightmare, her trembling hand touching her neck. Suddenly, her younger brother excitedly rushes over to hug her tightly. Panicked, she stammers to ask him what's wrong. But look at her brother. He is joyfully saying with tears in his eyes that she is finally awake. Shocked to see her brother still alive, she uses every way to prove this isn't a dream. Lionel pinches her brother's cheeks. Lionel is completely shocked by this sudden isekai moment. Liam's face and neck hurt because his sister went overboard. Finally, Lionel happily believes this isn't a dream. Liam suddenly shouts in alarm, saying his sister had been in a continuous fever and unconscious. Turns out, while Lionel was practicing swordsmanship, she fell and hit her head, suffering from a high fever and a coma. No one in the family expected her to survive. She can only laugh it off. Liam whimpers that if she hadn't woken up, his entrance ceremony would have turned into her funeral. Lionel doesn't remember the entrance ceremony at all. Liam is extremely shocked that she forgot such an important matter. Seeing this, Liam guesses his sister broke her head from the fall, so he quickly gets up to find a doctor. Seeing this, Lionel quickly pulls her brother back, awkwardly telling him to calm down, saying she just had a nightmare and couldn't react in time. Looking at her brother's youthful face, Lionel guesses she regressed to when she was 15 or 16. That year, Liam hadn't enrolled yet and hadn't become a knight. Liam prefers using magic over swords. Because of that, when he enrolled, he was teased by his classmates. Ultimately, he was framed for harming the seventh prince because he was targeted by the cruel crown prince. Their happy family was torn apart as a result. If she lets her brother enroll, that tragic scene, and her own head rolling, will happen all over again. Sweat dripping, Lionel contemplates how she should move forward in the future. Seeing his sister struggling like that, Liam feels guilty. They are twin siblings, but Liam always feels a bit insecure because the difference between them is too vast. Liam doesn't have a talent for swordsmanship like his sister. Liam sighs, saying it would be great if she were a boy. Hearing these words, Lionel snaps out of her thoughts. She has figured out a way. Lionel decisively pulls her brother's ear, bends him over, and whispers something that leaves Liam wide-eyed and mouth agape. The boy is terrified that his sister's million-dollar plan is too dangerous, but Lionel is determined to go all out, saying it's fine as long as they don't get caught. Afterward, Lionel confidently walks into her father's room. The Duke is extremely shocked to see his daughter lively again. She firmly calls out to her father. He stands up in shock, completely losing his ability to speak. Before Lionel can say a word, her father already pulls her into his embrace. He hugs her so tightly that Lionel feels like instead of dying by a sword, she's about to die at the hands of her father. After a moment, the Duke finally lets go of his daughter. He sighs in relief. Lionel lowers her head and says she's fine, but there's an important matter she needs to discuss with him. Without waiting for the Duke's reply, she walks over to the sword rack and decisively draws a sharp blade. Without saying a word, Lionel grabs her long, flowing hair. The father and son are too shocked to rush over and stop her before the hair is cut. Lionel says with absolute determination, "Father, I want to go to the 40 Academy in my brother's place." She is deadly serious, her aura rivaling, if not surpassing, that of a true knight. She is determined to go to school in her brother's place and infiltrate that den of hell, an academy that trains the highest level knights and mages in the country. The knight department only has 150 male students. The magic department has 100 male and female students. Every year, only 150 elite students are capable of crossing this narrow bridge. But she must successfully graduate from here, and to hell with that scumbag. She must guard her own happiness against him. That's the reason for Lunel's resoluteness. She risks everything, even the long hair that noble ladies always cherish. She can sacrifice much more, even if she has to turn into a boy. The two of them are completely dumbfounded by her actions and words. Father Duke trembles and asks, "You want to go to 40 Academy instead of Liam? Then how can you marry Duke Vezo next year?" The next second, the Duke is already in tears. To think she cut such beautiful hair just like that. Afterward, he sobs in deep sorrow. But Lunel remains determined to cut her hair and become a knight. In the future, she will inherit the family estate so her brother can study magic with peace of mind. The Duke is suddenly hit with a wave of intense anxiety because the family has been an orthodox, pure-blooded knight lineage since ancient times, where only sons can inherit the legacy. Lunel is completely determined that she will be the one to claim that inheritance. She will disguise herself as a boy and seize Liam's identity. The fierce determination of his young daughter makes the Duke visibly tremble. He is so utterly furious that he's practically fuming. The Knight Department is an absolute breeding ground for rowdy men. So how could he let his precious daughter go there? Besides, she's supposed to take home economics classes. Lunel decisively counters that she has a twin brother who can take those domestic classes in her stead. Her brother Liam immediately tries to reject this absurd responsibility. The Duke is so incredibly furious he's on the verge of coughing up blood, angrily roaring that he absolutely refuses because if their identity swap is ever exposed, their entire family is finished. As a lady, she should obediently prepare to be married off. She solemnly calls out to her father, fiercely asserting her long-cherished ideal that a woman doesn't necessarily need marriage to find true happiness. The Duke is utterly stunned by his daughter's modern mindset. Lunel smiles and runs a hand through her hair, noting that the in-laws would definitely reject a short-haired bride like her anyway. Seeing the Duke still hesitating to make a final call, Lunel guarantees she can flawlessly pull it off. Her eyes plead with an earnestness filled with lingering pain and despair. This is the absolute first time his beloved daughter has ever begged him like this. Finally, the Duke can only sigh and reluctantly agree. Between the two siblings, one is completely shocked while the other's face turns pale. But the patriarch has one strict condition. He will only grant her exactly 1 year. If she fails to prove herself as a suitable successor, she must yield and marry the Duke. Lunel excitedly accepts the terms. Walking toward 40 Academy, Lunel can't help but burst into laughter, thinking about her brother being forced to wear a dress to attend home economics class in her place, inadvertently catching the attention of the female students around her. They whisper eagerly among themselves about her, desperately wondering which noble family this breathtakingly handsome young master hails from. Looking at them, a wave of anxiety tightens in her chest. She absolutely must not let a soul discover she is actually a girl. Recalling her past life, Liam once mentioned that during the entrance ceremony, he accidentally collided with the crown prince. To prevent that catastrophic disaster from striking again, she wants to completely avoid getting tangled in that mess. Right at this exact moment, the entire campus suddenly erupts into chaos. Lunel looks over and realizes it's the notorious F4, the elite quartet of heartthrobs at 40 Academy, who also happen to hold absolute dominion over this school. The undisputed leader is Crown Prince Dylan. The number 4 represents the very essence of their group's identity, signifying absolute control and their destiny as the leading pillars of the nation's future. This empire rests upon 4 pillar families: the elite Klazi Mage clan, the legendary Omen Knight family, and the administrator of the nation's governance, the Duke of Baka family. These 3 prominent houses have served the emperor for generations. They caused a massive, unprecedented sensation when they first enrolled last year. To them, regular students and teachers are mere dust. They exert total control over the entire academy. Just look at those passionately fanatical, screaming girls over there. And standing among them is the vile culprit who framed Lunel's family in her past life. On the Crown Prince's side, he instantly notices the cheers today are noticeably quieter than usual. Then he overhears the surrounding female students whispering that an exceptionally handsome new student has just arrived over there. He shifts his gaze across the crowded courtyard, straight toward Linnell. Desperate to avoid interacting with this highly dangerous individual, she prepares to make a quick exit, the exact moment she is locked onto by the Crown Prince. Lionel's pupils shake in terror. It truly is a sickeningly small world for enemies. As for the arrogant Crown Prince, looking down on her from his high horse, he not only mocks her for being small and frail, but even sneers that her face looks exactly like a girl's. A member of his entourage tries to whisper a warning to watch his words, but is instantly silenced. He strides directly up to Linnell and taunts her, asking how someone with such pathetic muscles could ever hope to wield a sword. Afterward, he audaciously reaches out his hand to aggressively grab Linnell's chin. Facing the notoriously cruel Crown Prince, Linnell refuses to take even a single step back. For this despicable man is the absolute root of all her family's future evil. She glares back at him with icy, murderous intent. Witnessing her fierce defiance, the Crown Prince's twisted interest is instantly piqued. He then demands, "State your name." She very calmly introduces her stolen identity. The split second he hears she belongs to the Laoji family, he bursts into mocking laughter, remarking that's the house known for its vulgar and dull-witted daughter. Linnell's blood boils with rage. He continues to mock that daughter for behaving like a wild beast, mindlessly swinging a sword all day long. Linnell wants to tear that arrogant bastard limb from limb, but through sheer willpower, she forces herself to maintain absolute composure. Dylan raises a highly skeptical eyebrow. This unbothered look of hers makes the Crown Prince incredibly displeased. He suddenly draws his gleaming sword against Linnell and demands a duel. If he wins, Linnell must become his personal slave. She can't believe her ears. This guy truly is an absurd, completely unhinged tyrant. Look at how overwhelmingly confident he is, utterly looking down upon her unsheathed blade. What's even more outrageous is that he dares to claim if a weakling like her inherits the title, the family is utterly doomed. Insulting her personal honor is one thing, but she absolutely cannot tolerate anyone despising the proud Laoji name. Linnell furiously draws her sword. The elite members of the F4 group are completely stunned. They cannot believe their eyes. A mere freshman is pointing a lethal blade directly at the Crown Prince's face, boldly accepting the challenge and fiercely demanding, "If I win, you will take back every single word you just said." As soon as the words left her mouth, the Crown Prince swung his sword and slashed forward. The two fought relentlessly. One of the group members quickly dispersed the crowd due to the danger, as the two of them looked like they were in a state of battle frenzy. At this moment, a white-haired guy feels this newcomer is highly capable, as it's Dylan's first time encountering an evenly matched opponent. His sword hand is trembling from exerting so much force. He didn't expect the short and small kid to possess such immense strength. Both individuals grit their teeth and focus on the match. When it comes to swordsmanship, she absolutely won't lose to anyone, recalling her time back home. Everyone suffered defeat under Lionel's sword. Even though she was the young lady, none of the knights could keep up. They could only sigh helplessly, because no one was a match for the young lady anymore. And even the head knight lost to her. It was just a pity she was a girl. The clanking sound of swords brings the spectators back to the reality of the match. The Crown Prince loses his composure and arrogance. He didn't expect such a strong person to have never shown their face and hidden so well. Linnell's eyes are filled with determination to definitely become stronger. For the Laoji family, and for Liam, she absolutely cannot afford to lose here. Lionel's speed and strength increase by the day. The Crown Prince trembles, sensing that things are going downhill. Lionel catches a blind spot and the sword flies out of his hand. Everyone in the group is completely dumbfounded. They can't believe it. The crowd of female students also stare in shock. His sword has fallen, guys. His trash talking is over. Lionel gasps heavily for air, unable to believe that she actually won. Dylan grits his teeth, his eyes filled with rage and resentment. Each member of the F4 team carries a different expression. The national waifus are crying and mourning for their husband. The white-haired guy smiles excitedly. He likes this newcomer. Linnell looks up at the sky, letting out a breath, and glances back at the loud-mouthed bastard who is still kneeling. Linnell loudly declares her victory. His gaze is pure murderous intent. Linnell sheathes her sword, demanding the Crown Prince fulfill his promise, as agreed. He glares at Linnell in fury, grudgingly taking back his words. Afterward, he immediately stands up, boldly trash-talking again, claiming it was just Linnell's luck. He then orders the group to leave. The F4 team casually walks away, without turning back to look at those noble young masters. That guy dares to say her swordsmanship relies on luck? Let that dog keep barking. She will definitely throw some punches at him later. With the battle over, Linnell continues to her classroom. She had clearly decided not to cross paths with that guy, but now she's completely targeted, isn't she? Finally, she arrives at the classroom. She opens the door and steps inside, confronted by the cold atmosphere of the class. Our girl Linnell isn't scared at all. She walks straight into the classroom. It's probably because news of what just happened has spread everywhere. But she doesn't care, since it's already done, and nobody wants to get into trouble anyway. However, Liam in his past life could never make any friends and was isolated, so now everything is a mess. Linnell bursts into tears, apologizing to Liam, who is currently studying home economics. She resolves once again that she absolutely cannot let things stay this way. Just as Linnell is affirming her mindset of making friends, not enemies, a strange dark-skinned, white-haired guy suddenly approaches her. Linnell freezes for a few seconds. He radiates a sparkling admiration, saying Linnell is so awesome for actually beating the crown prince. Seeing her still standing there dazed, he happily extends his hand to introduce himself as Annie, hoping to cooperate with his brother for a long time. Lionel's eyes sparkle. She finally has a friend. She and Annie shake hands in delight. Annie is slightly surprised and flustered upon seeing Linnell's last name. Linnell acts friendly and says it's fine. In this classroom, all students are equal, with the F4 being the only exception. Seeing the newcomer as approachable, Annie immediately laughs and says the F4 group actually told everyone not to associate with him. Annie smiles like a blooming blue rose. In his eyes, Linnell is a good person. Linnell gives a forced smile. The atmosphere in the classroom is really strange. After that, she often goes to class with the boy, who is straightforward and cheerful. She figures Liam will become good friends with Annie, so she breathes a sigh of relief. Just like that, a few days after that chaotic entrance ceremony, today the two have a hangout planned. But as she walks out of the library, she sees a lot of people crowding around the fountain. Linnell is curious. Something is happening up ahead. Even the crown prince shows up. But the rest of the F4 group is there too. They are always together. As she steps closer, she sees two people holding swords, bullying someone. She recognizes that face and quickly shouts Annie's name. She dashes forward like the wind, only to be unexpectedly stopped by a sword. It's that damn crown prince again. Linnell doesn't understand what's going on, so she questions him. Turns out, because Annie didn't listen to the crown prince and dared to befriend Linnell, he is being punished by him. Now she finally understands Annie's previous comment about not associating with her. Just because of this, Dylan is making a mountain out of a molehill. She can't believe he would beat someone half to death over such a crazy reason. She ignores the crown prince and rushes to help Annie up. Seeing Linnell completely disregard him and run straight to Annie's side, he furiously orders the guards to swing their blades at Linnell. She looks in that direction. That absolute lunatic really intends to execute her on the spot. Linnell can only watch the descending blade. Dylan is decisively cruel. Linnell reaches her hand out to shield Annie. In that cliffhanger moment, a glowing magic circle erupts around Linnell, protecting her from the guards' lethal attack. Turns out it's a magic formation, and the one casting it is one of the F4 Kai. The white-haired guy speaks up to remind the crown prince that he's tripping way too hard. Even the guards feel awkward. Annie is still unconscious. Linnell has no idea why this guy wants to help her. The magical aura radiating out is absolutely breathtaking. Dylan grits his teeth and barks at Kai. That guy remains totally unfazed, looking drop-dead gorgeous. Kai warns the crown prince that playing too hard like that will literally kill someone. Linnell is still completely lost about the current plot. Seeing the two start to clash, a pink-haired guy runs over to intervene. A definitive line has been drawn between Dylan and another member of the elite squad. The pink-haired guy steps in between, saying stop fighting, tomorrow they still have to attend Alice's tea party. Thinking about the tea party, who knows what kind of twisted punishment the crown prince has cooked up for others. He curls his lips into a sinister smile. He approaches Linnell, hating her 1 second, then smiling and fake apologizing the next. This wild sequence of actions leaves Linnell utterly dumbfounded. The crown prince continues. To apologize, I invite you to attend the Alice tea party. These words leave everyone around completely bewildered. This incredibly fast shift gives Linnell a majorly bad vibe. She doesn't know what kind of malicious scheme the crown prince is plotting. She tries to spot any abnormalities in his words while he keeps on apologizing. But with this sudden change in attitude, danger is definitely lurking ahead. Seeing Linnell hesitate, the crown prince brings up her entire family as a threat, shocking her to the core. Even though she doesn't know what his underlying motives are, with Linnell's current status, she cannot reject an invitation from the crown prince. She can only helplessly agree to the setup. Dylan smiles slyly, saying the tea party is at 4 p.m. tomorrow. He will be waiting for her at the Eastern Garden. Kai stares at Linnell for a moment, then silently walks away with the F4. Alice is the shorthand for the High Society's Hongmen Banquet Tea Party. Only the chosen ones can participate in this game. The members of Alice are all the top-tier representatives of the Academy, including the F4. The Alice Society periodically hosts these exclusive tea parties. When receiving an invitation, the status of a female will be heavily elevated, making her the ultimate center of the social circle. As for males, their future will be guaranteed. After graduation, they can smoothly enter the path of promotion or become elite knights. Right now, Lena is bathing, steam rising in the bathroom, just like her current mood. After that incident, she brought Annie to the infirmary, but she couldn't do anything except get kicked out. Looking around, this bathroom is a communal one, but the door is locked, so it should be fine, right? Thinking about Annie getting brutally hurt because of her, she can't stop blaming herself. She doesn't know if he will still agree to be friends with her when he wakes up. And that psycho crown prince suddenly changed his attitude too. She has a majorly bad feeling about this entire trap. Since the bathroom door was locked, thinking no one else was there, Linnell pulls back the curtain, only to unexpectedly run into someone. Kai. He is just about to take off his shirt. Linnell freezes for 3 agonizing seconds. Kai opens his mouth, guessing that Linnell is the person from earlier, scaring Linnell into using the curtain to cover herself. Everything she should and shouldn't see has already been seen by him. Thinking she's about to face her doom, that man flashes a profoundly meaningful smile. So that's how it is. You're actually a girl. These words utterly shock Linnell. She was clearly extremely careful, yet she was ultimately caught by a member of the F4. Linnell gloomily faces the white-haired guy. He calmly strokes his chin, saying she's quite bold. Linnell begs him not to tell anyone about this, but unexpectedly, Kai asks where her younger brother is. Linnell honestly replies that he's taking home economics classes in her place. Thinking of that image, Kai can't help but burst into laughter, laughing until tears come out. Linnell feels this situation is a bit bizarre. Kai finally manages to stop. Afterward, both feel the other is very strange. A person who dares to point a sword at Dylan is not just strange, but also very interesting. If the truth that she's a girl cross-dressing as a guy is discovered, the Lauji family will probably be in deep trouble. No matter what, she must shut this white-haired guy's mouth. As long as you help me keep the secret, I will agree to any condition you set. Hearing this, Kai flashes a wicked smile and agrees to keep Linnell's secret. She didn't expect Kai to agree so quickly, but Kai calmly adds, "If I ever get too bored, I might just let this slip out." Hearing that, Linnell is completely stupefied. "Right," Kai adds, "so you'll have to be even more entertaining from now on." From then on, Linnell is completely under this weird guy's thumb. The next day, she carries her heavy anxieties into the classroom. Opening the door and walking in, she can't stop overthinking. Suddenly, several people in class call out Linnell's name. Her classmates are all excited and full of admiration because she was invited to Alice's tea party. She feels these people sure flip-flop fast. Although she knows about the Alice legend, she didn't expect its influence to be this massive. Saying that, Linnell asks about Ani, but he hasn't arrived yet. Hearing this, Linnell's heart aches. That cheerful boy is in this state, all because of her. She must definitely visit Ani as soon as the tea party is over. As agreed, Linnell arrives at the Alice tea party. She arrives all by herself, with a will full of absolute determination. Seeing that she doesn't back down, the Crown Prince praises her, remarking she has some real guts. She fires back that since he extended the invitation, she was obligated to show up. The Crown Prince looks down his nose at her with complete disdain. Lionel is sick with anxiety. She scans the area and realizes every single soul present is on Dylan's side, and the elite F4 members are all here too. Kai is even actively snickering at her. Surrounded by hostile nobles, she feels like she has walked straight into a death trap. Dylan extends his hand with a highly polished, impeccably elegant gesture to welcome Linnell to the Alice banquet. Linnell's face is stone cold as she braces for this psychological warfare. Just as she goes to take a seat, Dylan cuts her off. He sneers that this is not Linnell's place, pointing a mocking finger over to the far side, where several low-ranking maidservants are lined up. Linnell's vision goes dark with fury. She double-checks with Dylan, and he flashes a triumphant, sadistic smirk, telling her straight to her face that she was brought here solely to serve. Everyone in the pavilion bursts into a chorus of mocking laughter. That absolute bastard is forcing the eldest heir of a prestigious marquis family to act as a lowly servant just to publicly humiliate him. If she causes a scene right now, she will fall right into their hands, because there is absolutely no one here to back her up. That psycho over there is just basking in his easy victory. Lionel finally speaks up, cutting that absolute dog of a man off mid-laugh. He instantly freezes. Since that's what he desires, she will happily accept this arrangement from the Crown Prince. Everyone is utterly stunned. They never expected Linnell to actually swallow her pride and agree. The red-haired guy lets out a whistle, while Kai finds this mysterious kid more and more entertaining. The maid feels incredibly awkward. Fortunately, Linnell mastered the art of tea brewing at home, so this doesn't faze her. Linnell strikes up a conversation with the anxious maid, asking what needs to be done. Seeing the young girl still trembling with worry, Linnell smiles gently, reassuring her that it's fine. The girl instantly thinks he is such a heartwarming gentleman. The maid proactively asks Linnell to serve the elite F4, and she happily complies with a brilliant smile, though her icy eyes are already scanning the teacups. There is one specific cup completely different from the rest. The maid quietly explains that it's Lord Dylan's exclusive chalice. Linnell calmly pours the scalding water into the porcelain teapot. The entire crowd initially watched her with a deeply mocking, condescending attitude. They truly believed a marquise's son serving others like a slave would look completely pathetic. Linnell glares back. Let them stare all they want. She brings out the tea set, putting on a breathtaking showcase of exceptional and flawless technique. The elitist crowd from earlier is now wide-eyed in absolute amazement. Though her true passion is swordsmanship, she also possesses a deep love for fine tea, making her highly knowledgeable in the fine art of tea ceremony. Dylan's face turns incredibly sour. Linnell gracefully presents the freshly steeped cup of tea directly to the arrogant crown prince. Linnell wonders to herself why only his personal cup is distinct from all the others. Is he really just a narcissistic tyrant who loves to show off? The absolute split second she turns her back, a horrifying memory flashes. The catastrophic event where her innocent twin brother was maliciously framed by an unknown culprit for allegedly slipping a lethal poison into the crown prince's tea comes violently rushing back into Linnell's mind. This is a dark tragedy that is supposed to happen much further in the future, which is the exact reason Liam lost his sanity and standing in the academy. She is hit with an utter wave of panic because this execution plot shouldn't be triggering until much later. Could it be that her sudden regression triggered a massive butterfly effect that completely altered the timeline? The crown prince confidently raises the tainted teacup to his lips. Linnell frantically shoves the silver tray onto a nearby servant. The crown prince is just a millimeter away from taking a fatal sip. Linnell desperately lunges forward like a flash of lightning. Dylan is blindsided, utterly failing to comprehend what is happening. Linnell snatches the teacup straight out of his hand and chugs the entire contents down. An excruciating, agonizing pain tears through her. The venom takes effect instantly. Linnell violently coughs up a spray of dark blood from her mouth. As expected, it's a lethal dose. Dylan stares completely blankly at the horrifying scene unfolding before him. He desperately reaches out his hand, completely ignoring the falling porcelain cup, to tightly catch Linnell's limp body as she collapses forward. The expensive teacup shatters to 1,000 pieces. He cradles Linnell, violently shaking her to keep her from slipping away. The peaceful garden turns into pure, unadulterated chaos with terrified screams echoing everywhere. Dylan roars out at the top of his lungs, screaming Liam's name. Linnell is rapidly losing consciousness. As her vision completely blacks out, her final thought is that the crown prince is a cold-blooded monster who probably engineered this. Just because of a single cup of poisoned tea, our female lead's second chance at life comes to an abrupt end. Amidst the hysterical, chaotic scene, one of the elite F4 steps up to conduct a rapid medical check. This terrifying condition is undeniably acute poisoning. Hearing those two words, Dylan is instantly triggered and deeply traumatized. Poison once again. His biological mother was also brutally poisoned by a shadow assassin in his youth. He was absolutely paralyzed with terror back then, when he had to watch the Empress continuously vomiting black blood until she died. Dylan's heartbeat thumps violently against his chest. The crown prince's powerful arms holding Linnell also begin to visibly tremble with fear. Right at this critical moment, Kai unleashes his magic to help stabilize and heal Linnell. The pink-haired guy stares wide-eyed in sheer disbelief. Kai sharply orders that guy to shut his mouth. The green-haired guy is utterly shocked. He never expected the notoriously cold, detached Kai to proactively save anyone else. Is the sun rising from the west today? But Kai doesn't even bother to give them a reaction. He directly scoops Linnell up in a firm bridal carry, to rush her straight to the medical infirmary. Dylan stammers over his words and mindlessly follows along. Kai just leaves the ruined tea party entirely behind and walks away. Right now, the remaining F4 members still feel completely mind-blown that the ruthless Kai would willingly help another human being. The green-haired guy quickly verifies Dylan's safety, then glares around the room with murderous intent, ordering every single noble student to stay exactly where they are on pain of death. But meanwhile, Dylan is still completely paralyzed and trembling from the trauma. This brutal trauma makes it nearly impossible for him to keep his emotions under control. Deep inside the infirmary, Linnell has been safely brought here. Seeing Linnell fast asleep, Kai blames her for causing such a reckless scene, knowing clearly it was poisoned, yet still daring to drink it, which was honestly way too unhinged. The one who planted the venom definitely wasn't her. The mastermind's actual target was the Crown Prince, and she was just a convenient scapegoat who got set up. But daring to mess with my own property, Kai will definitely make that culprit regret it to death. After some time, as a cool breeze blows through the window, it softly and gently caresses Linnell's eyelashes. Linnell slowly opens her eyes. She has absolutely no idea where this is. By her ear, a voice carries over. "You're awake." Linnell looks toward the voice and sees the Crown Prince staring at her with a rather unfriendly gaze. Linnell quickly sits up. Dylan demands to hear her explanation. Taking a quick moment to compose herself, she suddenly remembers the entire ordeal. Right now, Linnell feels like she's completely doomed. Doesn't this guy think she was the actual culprit who poisoned him? He keeps staring and aggressively questioning Linnell. Her head is spinning, not knowing how to handle this. As expected, she shouldn't have messed with changing fate. The Crown Prince asks dead seriously. "Were you the one who poisoned that tea?" Lionel snaps back loudly. "It wasn't me!" The Crown Prince frowns and demands, "Then how did you know it was poisoned?" This is solely because she heard Liam mention it in her past life, but there's no way she can answer like that. The Crown Prince is still sticking to her like superglue. Linnell yells out that it was just a gut feeling. Dylan completely blanks out and blinks in confusion. Linnell explains that because Your Highness's cup was different from everyone else's, it raised immediate suspicions. In her heart, Linnell is also screaming constantly. If she didn't drink it directly, but just talked about it, who on earth would believe her? Hearing that, he grits his teeth and scolds her, saying she truly caused a total chaotic mess. Lionel didn't expect to thoroughly infuriate him just because she used herself as a human shield over a different teacup and almost died in the process. Lionel feels something is a bit off here. Dylan suddenly drops his voice to a whisper. Lionel hasn't recovered from the shock yet. Dylan grits his teeth and confesses that because he saw his mother get poisoned and die with his own eyes as a child, he never wants to witness that horror again. Lionel is utterly dazed, not understanding why the ruthless Crown Prince is suddenly so sorrowful. Linnell says calmly that she came to the Knight Academy to protect her family, but even if Your Highness completely hates it, this status cannot be changed. She is a proud student of the Knight Department. In order to protect her family, even if she unfortunately loses her life, they will still protect Your Highness in the future. Right now, Linnell's gaze is resolute. As long as she can shatter the future, she won't hesitate to do it. Looking at that incredibly righteous face and intense willpower, he can't help himself. He had clearly plotted so many malicious things. Yet the Crown Prince now mistakenly thinks Linnell wanted to protect him so much that she risked her life like that. She's just about to say something, but Dylan cuts her off and fiercely orders her never to do such a brain-dead thing again. Linnell is dazed. He stands up and shouts at the top of his lungs, startling Linnell. Dylan threatens that if Linnell ever drinks poison in front of him again, she will be finished by his own hands before the poison even takes effect. Linnell is officially speechless. She reluctantly agrees, finding it hard to believe in her heart that not only did she survive, but she could also change her past life's tragic destiny. The arrogant Crown Prince turns his face away and mumbles a thank you to Linnell for saving his life. To think the Crown Prince would actually thank her, the most shocking thing on the planet. This arrogant man turns into a totally shy boy, blushing uncontrollably. Linnell opens her eyes wide, taking in all of Dylan's expressions. Both of his ears are turning completely red. She doesn't hold back and bursts out laughing. Her smile radiates like a blooming white rose. Seeing himself get laughed at, the Crown Prince starts to snap. Linnell keeps laughing, both giggling and apologizing. The more Dylan looks, the more he feels this person actually looks kinda cute when smiling. By the time he snaps out of it, Dylan feels he must be going absolutely crazy. Because she saved the Crown Prince's life, Lionel instantly becomes the ultimate hero of the entire academy. Wherever she goes, an absolute crowd of female fans surrounds her and screams. Annie brightly comes over to chat, revealing that Lionel has become a legend to the entire academy now. Her face turns completely gloomy. She honestly thought she escaped the dreadful days of being stared down by the Crown Prince. But now she's catching even more unwanted attention from everyone else. Annie runs over to thank her, saying it's all thanks to Lionel's influence that they were actually chosen for the reserve roster of the Grand Magic Swordsmanship Tournament. Annie flashes a smile as bright as the morning sun, sincerely thanking Lionel. Her heart stirs because she was the one who got Annie hurt, yet he doesn't mind at all. Turns out she has made an incredible comrade. The two shake hands to celebrate and cheer each other on. The contestants are selected from 4 elite academies, including 40. They are all betting on the absolute pride and reputation of their respective academies. It can be said that people from every academy only aim for the championship, training like absolute demons. As long as they secure the cup, they will be directly admitted into the 7th Prince's Imperial Guard. Now that she's chosen for the reserve team, she needs to work hard to protect her family's reputation, so her father can finally acknowledge her as the successor. The two talk as they walk, not noticing that someone is secretly tailing them. On the way, both run into Kai and the green-haired guy. The green-haired guy asks if Lionel's current condition is getting any better, firmly asserting that he will personally hunt down the culprit. Seeing this, Lionel quickly gives her thanks, because in her past life, she never found out who actually framed Liam. From the green-haired guy's words, Lionel finally learns that the poison was entirely cured by Kai. Lionel is completely shocked, while Kai acts cold and unfazed, as if that little matter was absolutely nothing. Lionel quickly says thank you. Kai coldly replies, there's no need to thank him. He steps closer to her and whispers, instead making me find you more entertaining is the best way to thank me. Hearing that, Lionel's face turns pale with fear. The white-haired guy flashes a harmless smile, waves goodbye, and promises to meet again at the training grounds. Lionel gives a stiff smile, knowing she absolutely cannot let anyone else find out she's a girl. Beside her, Annie laments that he didn't expect Lionel wouldn't be afraid of them, while he's a bit scared. Lionel feels guilty. She's so nervous her blood sugar is dropping. Suddenly, Lionel fumbles around, acting as if she dropped something. She quickly turns back to fetch it, telling Annie she'll meet up with him later, so he should go ahead. Then Annie shouts after her, saying see you later, as she carelessly walks away. Unexpectedly, when Lionel turns back, someone is sneakily following her. Blinking into a bush, Lionel sneaks around. Truth is, she didn't drop anything. Because she is a girl, she can't go change clothes with Annie. Lionel runs to a private room to change. This is the ultimate weakness of cross-dressing as a guy. Suddenly, a hand reaches out from behind and covers Lionel's mouth. She struggles, trying to see who the person behind her is. Next, 2 other men step forward. Lionel recognizes that they are not from the academy. The scarred man flashes an evil smile, saying someone hired him to make the young master taste some bitter pain. Alarm bells ring loudly. Lionel secretly prays for someone to come save her. Over at the arena, the match is about to begin. The Crown Prince notices that Lionel hasn't arrived. Dylan panics, shyly denying the love bug. Annie also looks everywhere to find her, but Lionel isn't here. Seeing Annie, Kai asks where Liam is. Although he is terrified of the F4, thinking of his best friend's safety, he courageously speaks up. I can't find Liam. Both Kai and the Crown Prince wonder what's wrong. He tells them everything, including what happened outside the changing room. He saw Lionel's sword, but she was nowhere to be found. Dylan is skeptical, as there's no reason a student from the night department would drop their sword. Something bad must have happened. They deduce that since Liam has recently caught everyone's attention and is adored by the girls, while some admire him, someone must be jealous. Hearing this, Dylan's mind is in a mess. Although he is extremely worried about Lionel, he lies to himself that whatever happens to that kid has nothing to do with him. Ultimately, worry overrules his logic, and he grits his teeth to force himself. In the end, he quickly runs off to search. Meanwhile, over on this side, Lionel is thrown, rolling onto the stone floor. Her hands are tied behind her back, and her mouth is tightly bound, making her unable to speak. The scarred guy laughs, saying if she wants to blame someone, blame the person who hired them for not liking her. Lionel catches the main point. This means someone hates her. No, hates Liam. Therefore, they decided to cripple one of her arms. Suddenly, one guy feels that his skin looks quite nice. One man from the crowd walks toward Lionel with a knife. Lionel, takes the chance and rams herself with all her might into his stomach. The guy struggles with Lionel. During the scuffle, the knife grazes her face. She screams loudly for help, hoping someone will notice. As a result, that crowd becomes even more aggressive. One guy grabs Linnell's collar and rips it open. They plan to cut her leg tendons just in case she tries to run away. Linnell is utterly terrified, completely paralyzed by panic, when suddenly, bang! Just as Linnell is on the absolute verge of tears, a familiar face crashes through. It's the Crown Prince, looking entirely demonic with rage. The four thugs are caught completely off guard by the sudden, violent intrusion of a fifth person. Dylan swiftly scans the grim scene, and the exact second his eyes land on his companion's torn shirt, his murderous wrath completely explodes. Glaring at that pathetic scum, he coldly growls each syllable with lethal intent. "What do you think you're doing to Laoji?" The entire atmosphere instantly shifts into a suffocating, tense standoff. The thugs instantly pale as they recognize that the newcomer is none other than the Crown Prince. Knowing they are heavily outmatched, they desperately look for a way to escape. The entire gang lunges forward in a frantic attempt to flee the room, but the Crown Prince brutally swings his sword, mercilessly slaughtering everyone left and right. Bodies go flying, crashing down onto the stone floor, one after another, every single strike fueled by unadulterated fury. The once aggressive thugs fall like dominoes. The idiot holding the knife successfully catches Dylan's gaze, and the prince quickly swings his blade, slicing downward. His free hand balls into a ruthless fist, hammering down into the skull. Lionel watches the absolutely badass Crown Prince standing right in front of her. He is actually shouting in panic, demanding to know if she's all right. Only in this chaotic moment does she finally realize this terrifying man actually came to save her life. Suddenly, a wave of sheer panic hits as she becomes conscious of her ripped open collar. Even though she's flat-chested, she's utterly terrified the Crown Prince might discover she's actually a girl. Lionel desperately tries to stand up, but a bone-deep, agonizing pain makes her grimace in agony. Suddenly, a gentle, unexpected warmth envelops her. Right at this moment, the Crown Prince drapes his own royal cloak over Lionel. She is completely dazed. Doesn't this guy absolutely despise her entire existence? Why on earth is he acting so incredibly gentle this time? The tense atmosphere is suddenly shattered by a loud shout from outside. The remaining 3 elite members of the F4 squad also rush into the room. The Crown Prince sharply instructs the green-haired guy, who is Eric, to immediately summon the Imperial Guards. Lionel asks in confusion how they managed to track her down to this hidden place. Kai quickly responds with a smirk. These little trackers led the way. 2 majestic wolves look incredibly proud of their recent achievement, affectionately nuzzling against Kai. Suddenly, the surrounding space glows, and they dissolve back into the fur cloak wrapped around Kai. Kai strides over and violently kicks the bald thug's head. He demands, "Who hired you, scum?" Unexpectedly, this thug is quite stubborn, spitting back that he won't talk even if they kill him. Kai flashes an incredibly gentle smile, yet it sends absolute chills running straight down everyone's spines. The very next second, a ferocious, massive white wolf manifests with its jaws wide open, scaring the bald thug utterly out of his wits. The Crown Prince suddenly notices something is seriously wrong with Lionel's leg. It's a severe injury from being brutally dragged by those bastards earlier. Seeing that she can't even walk, he firmly grabs her hand to support her weight against his chest. But this aggressive move scares Lionel half to death. The Crown Prince's hand inadvertently presses against Lionel's body, and he feels something undeniably soft. Lionel's inner consciousness is screaming in absolute horror. Dylan completely blanks out in shock. Her eyes are wide and her mouth is agape, throwing a massive hysterical tantrum inside her head. Did this guy seriously just grope her chest? Lionel instantly breaks into a cold sweat. It's over. She is completely, utterly cooked. The massive secret that she's a cross-dressing girl is about to be completely exposed. Lionel's face drains of all color as she stammers incoherently. She feels intensely dizzy, her head spinning and completely blank, unable to formulate a single excuse. Her true identity is genuinely about to be revealed. Unexpectedly, the Crown Prince is an absolute idiot who genuinely thinks Lionel just suffered a severe chest injury. A single sentence is uttered that leaves 3 people completely frozen in absolute shock. Lionel instantly loses her ability to speak, while Kai is totally turned to stone by the sheer stupidity. What if Lionel tries to explain the truth right now? But basically, Dylan completely miscalculates and seriously deduces that Lionel's chest area is just horribly swollen up. Kai secretly snickers at the absurd misunderstanding. The female lead suddenly hits a crushing realization. She clutches her shirt tightly, internally screaming, "Am I really that flat?" But to protect her life, she has to play along and admit she got hit in the chest. But out of nowhere, the dense Crown Prince demands to rip Lionel's shirt off to inspect if her bones and muscles are fractured. Lionel quickly grips her collar with a death clutch. At the absolute crucial moment, Kai steps forward and firmly pats the Crown Prince on the shoulder, intervening to say he will personally use magic to heal Liam's injuries. Lionel is instantly saved from the hot seat and gets so deeply touched, she's on the verge of tears, genuinely believing this guy is a saint. But completely defying her expectations, Kai leans in and secretly whispers, "Good thing Dylan is so slow-witted." Hearing this, Lionel really wants to take back her previous gratitude. Kai activates his magic, a soothing green light completely enveloping Lionel's body. In just a matter of seconds, her severe injuries are thoroughly healed. He reaches his hand out incredibly gently to tenderly wipe away the dried blood on Lionel's face. The nasty laceration on her leg has also completely vanished and she feels no more pain. Lionel can't help but marvel that magic is truly miraculous. He only flashes a knowing smile and says nothing. The Crown Prince watches the two of them, smiling and chatting intimately, feeling a strange, toxic wave of unhappiness coil in his chest. Lionel was seriously so incredibly soft. That exact texture is still vividly clear on his hand, making him completely question reality. He tells himself he must be going crazy. Lionel is a literal guy, his bro, his buddy. Lionel brightly expresses her gratitude to Kai. He smiles smoothly and remarks it was as effortless as turning over his hand. Looking at the two of them hitting it off, Dylan looks like he's downing a cup of pure jealousy, tightly clenching his hand into a trembling fist. He was clearly the badass who saved Lionel from the thugs, yet she didn't even bother to utter a single thank you to him. What is this nameless, deeply irritating discomfort suffocating his heart? Not long after the incident, the cowardly masterminds are dragged into the light. 3 vile perpetrators, standing behind the kidnapping, turn out to be the jealous sons of Count Dembo. In the end, those 3 elitist punks are permanently expelled, and school life resumes its usual rhythm. That afternoon, Annie and Lionel are practicing swordsmanship with full-blown intensity. Annie desperately refuses to back down, but in just a few lightning-fast exchanges, Lionel cleanly disarms him, knocking the sword straight out of Annie's hand. The boy plops down defeatedly on the ground, ceaselessly hyping up Lionel's god-tier swordsmanship. Even so, he is still incredibly hyped to have found a powerhouse rival, who also happens to be a genuine friend. Lionel reaches out her hand to pull her winded classmate up. Suddenly, both notice the unexpected arrival of Senior Kai. Kai has suddenly tracked Lionel down, looking drop-dead gorgeous and ethereal as always. He smoothly tells her there's absolutely no need to use stiff honorifics and to just call him by his first name. Lionel finds the sudden closeness very bizarre. Suddenly, a white magical furball rushes over and affectionately licks Lionel's face. The other adorable wolf cub is still casually chilling right on top of Kai's shoulder. Seeing Lionel hesitate to speak his name, Kai leans in dangerously close to Loki, threaten her, whispering that if Lionel refuses to call his name, he will instantly expose her cross-dressing secret to the entire campus. Lionel is left completely speechless and utterly drained, realizing this guy is actually a massive bully. In the end, Lionel has to swallow her pride and quietly call out, "Kai." Hearing her intimately say his name, the cold wolf boy gets all giddy inside, flashing an extremely satisfied, rare smile, seeing Kai's entire stoic face literally blooming like a joyful flower, puts a massive, confused question mark in Lionel's head. While she's trying to process this, the arrogant crown prince aggressively ruins the strangely wholesome atmosphere between the two. Dylan stomps over, completely startling Lionel out of her thoughts. Even the perceptive wolf cub instantly hates this man's toxic vibe, let alone her. He abruptly orders Lionel to drop everything and duel with him right now. It honestly feels like Lionel must have misheard his crazy demand. Her eyes go completely wide in sheer shock. She seriously doesn't want to have a single thing to do with this psycho anymore, okay? The red-haired playboy instantly senses that the tension between the 3 of them is getting incredibly weird. He genuinely doesn't comprehend why those 2 alphas keep hovering around the scrawny newcomer Liam. The green-haired intellectual couldn't care less, nonchalantly pushing up his glasses with peak indifference. But looking closely, Liam is admittedly kind of adorable, so... The green-haired guy standing right next to him catches this out-of-pocket comment and flashes him a look of absolute pure disdain. They've been bros for so long, yet he had zero clue his best buddies harbored such wild, unexpected tastes. The red-haired guy completely turns to stone on the spot from the sheer embarrassment. Over on the main field, the intense duel between Lionel and Dylan has already kicked off. But as their blades clash, Lionel notices that the tyrannical crown prince has gotten monstrously stronger. His raw physical power is on an entirely different level, too. Lionel can't bring herself to believe this is the true, unsuppressed combat strength of Dylan. Meanwhile, Dylan is also secretly sizing up his opponent mid-swing. Although the kid's raw strength isn't overwhelming, he possesses insane speed and formidable god-tier skills. In the end, Dylan ruthlessly dominates and defeats Lionel this time around. Lionel collapses backward, sitting flat on the cold ground, as a sharp, agonizing pain shoots straight through her backside. The Crown Prince's eyes suddenly widen in absolute shock. He genuinely feels the breathless way Lionel wipes away her sweat looks breathtakingly beautiful. His internal state is currently filled with more utter confusion than if he were actively being hunted down by assassins. Lionel looks dangerously adorable again. Every single micro-gesture of hers makes his heart violently flutter, almost giving him a massive nosebleed. Dylan tries desperately to calm his racing thoughts, sternly telling himself this person is his solid brother, and there is absolutely no way he is getting bent. Truth is, that man is just being a narcissistic weirdo, while Lionel is simply sitting on the floor, tactically analyzing the match. If it comes down to pure physical stats, she stands absolutely zero chance of winning right now. She has to grind and make herself much stronger. Just as she braces herself to stand up, her lower back lets out a loud, terrifying pop. It looks like she severely threw out her waist when she took that hard fall just now. The Crown Prince frantically demands to know how bad it is, making her even more anxious. So she flatly denies it and insists she's perfectly fine. Seeing that she's physically unable to stand up, Dylan surprisingly reaches out his hand to help. But completely out of nowhere, Kai also extends his hand, aiming to pull Lionel up first. Dylan is caught completely off guard by the interference. Kai flashes a highly mocking smirk, remarking that it's truly a rare, historic sight for Dylan to play the gentleman for someone else. Dylan righteously claps back, stating that this kid got injured entirely because of him. So naturally, he has to take full responsibility. Kai, still wearing that deceptively gentle smile on his lips, smoothly chimes in that he can easily cure the injury with magic, you know. An absolute suffocating storm brews fiercely between the two powerhouses. Dylan gets completely, thoroughly ticked off by the blatant provocation. Right now, a highly stressful, life-altering choice falls squarely onto Lionel's fragile shoulders. Questioning her entire existence, she quickly scoots backward, genuinely feeling these two guys are absolute monsters. One is a dominant, forcefully aggressive hand-grabber, while the other is lethal and calculated down to his very bones. Seeing how catastrophic the situation is, only a certified idiot would actually choose a side right now. Lionel purely endures the agonizing pain and forces herself to stand up entirely on her own. Witnessing Lionel being so stubbornly independent, the infuriated devil Dylan storms off in a massive huff. And he doesn't forget to aggressively drag Kai right along with him. Kai still maintains that angelic, innocent face as he smoothly waves goodbye to her. With the two absolute menaces finally gone, Lionel breathes a massive, exhausted sigh of relief. Upon finally dragging herself back to the night department dormitory, Lionel collapses face first onto the bed in sheer, unadulterated exhaustion. This entire day felt endlessly, brutally long, but she genuinely doesn't comprehend why the hostile Crown Prince saved her. Not only did he protect her, but he also seemed to be genuinely, deeply caring. Or is this massive shift entirely because of me? If the tea poisoning incident has completely derailed, then what other catastrophic events await in the future? Lionel suddenly snaps awake and sits straight up. She must stay sharp and absolutely cannot afford to let her guard down just because of that guy's bizarre behavior. Suddenly, her eyes lock onto a mysterious letter resting on the table. Only now does she realize she completely forgot about an unread letter from earlier. The name boldly written on the envelope reads Liam. This is the very first letter her younger brother has ever sent her. Lionel excitedly tears it open, only to be struck by absolute bombshell news. The Crown Prince has officially invited them to the 7th Prince's Grand Evening Gala, and she needs to head back immediately. She is completely, utterly cooked, her hands trembling violently as she grips the parchment. In her past life, she never received a single invitation to this elite gathering. This means she is forced to dress up in women's clothing. Right behind Lionel is an absolute terrifying abyss. She cannot let the Crown Prince discover her secret under any circumstances. What on earth should she do? After agonizing over the letter and calculating her options, Lionel decides she has no choice but to go. She finally returns to the estate, gracefully dressed as a noble lady in an elegant gown and a stylish straw hat. This dreaded day has finally arrived. Though she rejected the idea countless times, this was a personal royal invitation directly from the Crown Prince himself. If she allows him to keep breathing down her neck and messaging her back and forth over this, it will become a massive, never-ending hassle. In short, she just needs to briefly show her face, get in, make an appearance, and escape as fast as humanly possible. The exact moment she steps into the mansion, she is completely startled by the grand and breathtakingly magnificent scene laid out before her. Dozens of maidservants stand in a flawless line, bowing deeply to greet the return of the eldest young lady. Before she can even open her mouth to properly greet them back, she is instantly swept off her feet by the frantic maids. Judging by their intense, overwhelming momentum, they are absolutely not going to grant her a single second to catch her breath. The maids chime in one after another in a panicked chorus. "Young lady, you haven't been home for so long. There is zero time left. We must transform you properly." Lionel soaks peacefully in a luxurious rose petal bath while a head maid carefully brushes out her hair. They can't help but admire how beautiful her long hair used to be. It's been an absolute eternity since she was pampered by the staff, so this honestly feels incredibly comforting. But the maids still feel terribly upset and heartbroken for her current situation. Lionel, on the other hand, is completely hyper-focused on a much more critical dilemma. How on earth can she attend a royal banquet with this tomboyish short hair? From sparkling high-end diamond jewelry to the finest premium lipstick, the prestigious marquis's daughter is finally finished with her glamorous makeover. The maid endlessly hypes Lionel up, praising her for being so drop-dead gorgeous. Even Lionel feels like she's staring at a completely different person. Her current aesthetic is light years away from when she's swinging swords. Lionel nervously runs her fingers through her short hair. Outside, Lionel's younger brother runs over to greet her, shouting, "Sister!" She is instantly overjoyed. Her brother pushes the door open and walks in gracefully. Liam looks much more dapper and handsome now. The two siblings happily catch up on everything. Not long after the initial joy, Liam pauses and asks, "Sister, do you honestly plan to go to the banquet with that short hair?" Lionel flashes an excited, mischievous expression and says, "That's right! Having short hair means I won't ever have to drag myself to these boring banquets anymore." Liam knows his older sister's escape tactics all too well, but there's no running this time. The boy skillfully chants an incantation and casts high-level magic. Her short hair slowly begins to grow long and flowing, reverting just like before. Liam smiles brightly. "See how awesome your little brother is?" Lionel is utterly amazed. "That's truly incredible." However, Lionel internally sheds two massive streams of tears because she actually wanted nothing to do with this banquet. Liam smoothly extends his hand toward Lionel, showcasing the textbook manners of a flawless noble gentleman. After hesitating for a moment, even though she feels slightly wronged by fate, she lets it go and places her hand gently in her brother's. The royal carriage begins its long, bumpy journey toward the imperial palace. Inside the carriage, Lionel strictly instructs Liam that he absolutely must not cross paths with the elite F4 group, nor is he ever allowed to wander off anywhere alone. Liam has no choice but to reluctantly agree. She has already repeated this warning over and over again. In truth, it's solely because she's terrified her brother might end up making the same mistakes as before, ultimately causing their entire family to be brutally executed by the crown. But moreover, they absolutely cannot let the secret of their swapped identities be discovered by anyone. Liam silently watches his older sister, completely lost in deep thought. In a literal flash, the carriage arrives at the gates of the imperial palace. Gazing up at that overwhelmingly luxurious fortress makes her feel intensely anxious and restless. Meanwhile, Liam remains completely carefree and cheerful as ever. She genuinely doesn't know how to handle the stress anymore. Liam quickly steps down from the carriage to gentlemanly help Lionel dismount. Every single step she takes in these heels has to be extra careful. Together, side by side, the two siblings march directly toward the royal battlefield. Lionel fiercely tells herself she must make this terrifying party end smoothly, without any drama. The breathtaking appearance of the two immediately causes a massive stir among the surrounding aristocratic crowd. Everyone turns their full attention to the famously elusive twin siblings of the prestigious Logie family. Attending a high society banquet for the first time, Lionel isn't nearly as fierce as the savage rumors claim. Lionel's ethereal beauty instantly attracts countless young lords and high nobles. She looks incredibly adorable on the outside. Lionel looks around in all four directions, quietly taking in the stunning view. As expected of the imperial palace, the banquet hall is incredibly glamorous and splendidly decorated. A wealthy nobleman plans to step forward to shoot his shot, but is immediately stopped by his companion. Because everyone knows her official fiancé is none other than Kwa Goman. For some bizarre reason, countless intense eyes are locked onto Lionel. She curiously turns to whisper to her younger brother, asking if her makeup looks weird or messed up today. Liam smiles warmly and reassures her that she looks a million times more beautiful today than usual. Being showered with compliments makes Linnell feel like he's exaggerating a bit. Right after that, her attention crashes straight into the glossy, perfectly roasted chicken sitting on the buffet table. The moment she sees food, she happily drags Liam over by the arm. "Look at all this delicious food!" Liam laughs out loud. Even with a fancy designer outfit and heavy makeup, his older sister hasn't changed a single bit. Hearing this kid tease her, Linnell blushes in pure embarrassment. Her brother has definitely gotten sweeter and really knows how to comfort his stressed sister. She scans the room, spots an empty, secluded corner, and immediately wants to sneak over to gorge on food, then quietly slip away unnoticed. Surely that wouldn't cause any issues. Linnell tightly drags her brother and runs over to the corner, only to be instantly blocked by an aggressive group. Turns out they are hardcore fangirls of her brother. The twins don't even know their names yet. A massive crowd of beautiful, noble ladies swarms over all at once, scaring the two of them utterly out of their wits. A horde of young ladies completely surrounds Liam, leaving the young boy totally flustered, completely oblivious to the fact that this is the masterpiece popularity halo created entirely by his sister. Right at this intense moment, the grand entrance doors are suddenly thrown wide open. The legendary F4 have officially arrived. Everyone is drop-dead gorgeous, each radiating their own unique aesthetic, a literal perfect 10 out of 10. In particular, the domineering crown prince still commands the room with his piercing rose-red eyes. Meanwhile, Kai remains breathtakingly pure and ethereal, and the green-haired intellectual shines with a sharp, brilliant beauty. As for the pink-haired playboy, he effortlessly sports the ultimate top-tier charismatic look. That incredibly flamboyant entrance scares Linnell half to death. She quickly scans the room for a place to hide, as she absolutely cannot let them spot her. Turning her head around, she realizes her brother is already gone. He didn't just pull a literal vanishing act, did he? Linnell completely panics, her face turning pale as she runs everywhere to search for him. She checks every single dark hallway and empty corner, desperately guessing that maybe Liam has returned to the private drawing room. But the F4 are all loitering right over there, so Linnell doesn't dare step anywhere near. Unexpectedly, just as she blindly turns a sharp corner in the dimly lit hallway, she bumps right into someone's broad chest. Linnell rubs her sore nose and quickly stammers an apology. The other person looks down, seeing clearly who he just bumped into. This radiant, magical halo is unmistakable. Linnell's eyes go wide in absolute shock. Why on earth is Kai here? Her eyes spin in utter circles, and she uncontrollably begins to stammer over her words. She originally intended to pretend they were complete strangers, but she was caught red-handed by him. Kai flashes a smooth smile and asks where all her usual explosive energy went. Kai gently lifts Linnell's hand, softly kissing the back of it, while murmuring, "It's my very first time seeing you in women's clothing, Lady Linnell." Linnell's expression instantly shifts from utterly bewildered to completely terrified. Kai even smoothly praises her for being so breathtakingly adorable. Look at that glowing, flawless face, just like a pure white lily untouched by the dust of the world. Linnell awkwardly offers her thanks, secretly panicking inside, wondering if this dangerous guy intends to expose her cross-dressing identity to the public right now. Unexpectedly, he tightly holds Linnell's trembling hand and whispers that he doesn't want a single soul besides himself to see Lionel's stunning female appearance. Kai's toxic possessiveness has already begun to show its teeth. Lionel's emotional state right now is intensely chaotic. Linnell, questioning reality while trembling and turning pale with fear, wonders if her appearance today is truly so hideous that she needs to be locked away so others can't see her. Kai asks Linnell where she wants to go, pulling her out of her deep psychological trauma. Thinking back, she is desperately looking for her little brother Liam. But how could Linnell dare to answer that she's looking for her brother? This man is a total demon. If she tells him, he might find her interesting and stalk her around again. She hides the truth, saying it's just a minor issue that the Lord doesn't need to concern himself with. Hearing that Linnell is preparing to return to the main hall, Kai smiles brightly with his eyes curved. He extends his hand toward Linnell just like the way Liam wanted to escort her. The sudden action leaves her dazed, staring blankly at him, unsure of what he wants to do. Seeing the little squirrel blinking in surprise, Kai smiles and says he just wants to escort Linnell back to the banquet. Looking at that persistent smile on his face, Linnell feels a chill run straight down her spine. What kind of blessing is it to be escorted by one of the elite F4? If they walk back together, they will definitely cross paths with the crown prince. That's literally jumping from the frying pan into the fire. Seeing Linnell decline, Kai immediately uses Linnell's secret to blackmail her. Hearing this, Linnell looks in horror at the smiling demon in front of her. There must be a literal devil hiding behind this guy's back. Kai friendly extends his hand with a smile, asking which path she will choose. Does she even have a choice? Ultimately, she has to accept defeat and place her hand in this man's. To protect her cross-dressing secret, Lionel can only endure the stress and agree. All the lords and nobles at the banquet immediately stir up a massive commotion. The sudden appearance of this handsome man and beautiful woman naturally attracts the eyes of countless people. Some look with admiration, others with pure jealousy, but a talented man paired with a beauty is truly a perfect match. Seeing them gossiping, Linnell assumes they must think she isn't worthy of the F4. Kai steals a glance with a highly amused smile. While Linnell is lost in her wild thoughts, she suddenly lets go of Kai's hand to quickly say goodbye. She doesn't forget to bow directly. She must escape from this demon to go find Liam. Just as she turns to leave, her hand is grabbed back. Kai invites her to dance a song with him. Linnell's jaw literally drops to the ground in shock. In this country, a girl's first dance can only be with her fiancé or a family member. Looking at that obviously fake smiling face, this guy clearly knows that rule, yet still wants to force an invitation to dance. Could it be that he just wants to toy with her? She won't let him have his way. Kai feels this development isn't going as planned. Kai smiles, acting dangerously disappointed. No righteous gentleman ever smiles like that. Searching every single nook and cranny down to the spots where young ladies usually hang out, Linnell runs around frantically looking for her brother. After searching several rounds, there is still absolutely no sign of Liam. She secretly thinks, could it be that my brother couldn't find me, so he already went home? Just as Linnell is completely exhausted and drained, someone calls her name again. Another young lord comes to invite Linnell to dance. Before that guy can even finish his sentence, he is pushed aside by a green-haired boy who says, Lady Linnell, if you don't mind, please dance with me. The two of them begin to throw down an aggressive dispute. A few nobles standing nearby also join in the argument. She completely refuses to comprehend this situation. It goes from 2 people to 4 people. Seeing the fight for her attention growing bigger and bigger, Linnell glances at the empty balcony behind her back and a wild idea pops into her mind. She laughs out loud, saying a hasty goodbye to those 4 young lords. Before they can even react, she uses her flash movement skill straight toward the balcony edge. Even wearing high heels cannot stop Linnell from leaping toward a new horizon. She places her hands on the railing and vaults over with absolute mastery. By some twist of fate, the crown prince happens to be chilling directly underneath. If a bystander caught this scene, it would look gorgeous, like a once-in-a-century spring dream. But in reality, it hurts like hell. Linnell is flying straight down, driven by pure physics. She feels like she's about to be isekai'd again in this second life. All that can be heard is a massive thud. Like a giant asteroid just crashed onto Earth, Linnell rubs her forehead from the landing. It hurts quite a bit, but there's no major injury. Linnell's human cushion is none other than the crown prince. He is so dizzy from the pain that his face twists as he gnashes his teeth. Linnell is horrified. She didn't expect the crown prince to be here. She thought he was inside the banquet, which is why she jumped out here to hide. Because it happened so suddenly, the 2 of them are still in a highly suggestive position. Linnell stammers, sweating bullets. If her entire family gets executed this time, it'll definitely be her fault. He is still rubbing his painfully bumped head, his voice dripping with murderous intent, as he calls out for the culprit who just rammed into him. His Highness the Crown Prince angrily raises his voice. Who dares to be so audacious? But when he sees the person across from him clearly, he is instantly struck, completely speechless. His heart also beats rapidly. He suddenly doubts himself. This person in front of him looks exactly like his buddy. This sharp suspicion scares Linnell so much her hair stands on end. How did she get suspected so quickly? But either way, the Crown Prince is still a tsundere guy. He genuinely asks why his best brother is dressed up like this. Linnell snaps out of it and has an epiphany, trying to calm herself down. Right now, she's wearing women's clothes, so there's nothing to fear. With that thought, she quickly corrects him, saying she is Liam's twin sister. The Crown Prince is a bit flustered and finds it hard to believe. Meanwhile, she has already quickly stood up, gracefully curtsying to introduce her identity, asserting that Liam is indeed her twin brother. Dylan's eyes are still full of shock. He stands up and inspects her for a moment. It's too unbelievable because this is clearly Liam in women's clothing. The appearance and aura are completely identical. Speaking of rumors, Linnell seems to have some recollection. Her memory starts working. It was during the opening ceremony when he said she was a girl who was both fierce and slow. But clearly, before Dylan can even say anything, Linnell is already straining her neck in pure anger, wanting to say, "I'm the fierce one, right?" Exposing herself before even being questioned, Linnell only realizes her behavior is wrong afterward and quickly covers her mouth. Linnell didn't expect this outburst would actually crack the crown prince up into a loud laugh. He laments a bit. She truly is just like the rumors say. Not only did she fall from the sky, but she even dared to raise her voice at the crown prince. Lionel is genuinely confused as to why he isn't angry. But the wound on Dylan's hand catches her immediate attention. She quickly pulls out a handkerchief to tend to the injury. She completely ignores his words and quickly bandages it for him, using her very own pocket handkerchief. Linnell is sincerely sorry. This might not be a proper medical treatment, but it can still help ease your pain a little bit. The prince just stares blankly at Linnell's gentle actions until his mind completely goes blank. His heart instantly loses all control, thumping rapidly, one violent thud after another. His face also blushes a bright crimson. Meanwhile, Linnell has neatly tied a surprisingly pretty butterfly knot, even reminding His Highness the Prince to remember to apply some disinfectant later. After a moment of complete fluster, she finally realizes she is casually holding the hand of the ultimate final boss, whom she swore to stay far away from, and quickly apologizes. But this urgent, frantic action looks exactly like Dylan's buddy. The prince is visibly shocked as he stares down at her, feeling this mysterious maiden is truly too identical to his buddy Liam. But why on earth is the main issue that he keeps thinking about Liam at a time like this? Linnell only now becomes conscious enough to mentally list out all the major disasters she has just caused. Jumping recklessly down from the second floor, and even crashing directly into the crown prince, causing him to get physically injured. Taking full advantage of the fact that the crown prince hasn't opened his mouth to order her immediate execution yet, she quickly prepares to run away, too. Just as she is about to say a hasty goodbye, her traitorous stomach lets out an incredibly loud growl. The entire atmosphere suddenly becomes dead silent. Dylan can't help but burst out laughing, while Linnell desperately wants to find a hole to crawl into. Dylan thinks that because she was starving, she quickly tried to flee this place to find food. This is truly way too hilarious. This is the first time he has ever met a young lady who possesses so many chaotic surprises like this. He fully expected she would apologize in floods of tears or suddenly get defensive. But unexpectedly, she worried about his injury first, and her expressions kept changing constantly too. Dylan still wants to study her fascinating reactions a bit more, but who would have thought this lady is already plotting to run away? The prince smoothly reaches out his hand to firmly grab Linnell's wrist. Every single sudden move of this big demon cannot help but drastically shorten Lionel's lifespan. But he actually asks if they can meet again with boundless, genuine sincerity. The very next day, at the sword training grounds, the crown prince actively comes to find Linnell. She is incredibly flustered and feels a bit guilty, vividly remembering that highly romantic, chaotic scene from last night. A lot of crazy things happened, but she didn't dare ask what Dylan's parting question about meeting again actually meant. As for this dense crown prince, he is truly an absolute idiot who didn't recognize at all that Linnell is the exact girl from yesterday. He steps forward with a bit of hesitation to ask his buddy, "You have a twin sister, right?" Linnell is instantly startled. Could it be that he is tracking her down to settle the score for causing his embarrassing injury? 49 different types of villain execution scripts instantly flash in her head, plus that bloody head-bumping incident earlier. Could it be that she has to say goodbye to life now? Well, Lionel is still busy imagining how tyrannical and ruthless Dylan can be. He only scratches his head and ears in pure embarrassment, planning to ask about the girl from last night. Meanwhile, Lionel suddenly makes a formal, terrified 90-degree bow toward the prince and blurted out, "I'm so sorry." But the main point that Dylan successfully catches is that his good buddy's older sister actually mentioned him. Linnell foolishly replies, "Yes," even though that exact person is her very self, carefully observing the crown prince's reaction for a bit. Wow, he isn't furious at all. On the contrary, he blushes even harder than before. But there's just one glaring issue. The two of them look so remarkably alike. The exact moment Dylan sees Liam, he instantly thinks back to the breathtaking girl he met last night. And moreover, just by staring at his male buddy, his heart already starts thumping rapidly against his chest. Suddenly, he discovers the main source of his confusion is the face. That's right, it's simply because of that specific, beautiful face. He frantically reminds himself that he simply aesthetics the face of the two siblings, that's all. This excuse is just too perfectly logical. It must definitely be exactly like that. Linnell says in a low voice that the sister in Dylan's imagination is very worried about his wound. Hearing that, the Crown Prince becomes even more incredibly excited. To think that beautiful girl is actually losing sleep over him. This bizarre development scares Lionel half to death. Seeing that he isn't angry at all about last night's disaster, Linnell softly breathes a massive sigh of relief. Suddenly, the rowdy red-haired guy rushes over from behind and aggressively puts his arm around Linnell's neck, making her head spin. The remaining two elite members of the F4 also manifest. The pink-haired playboy unhappily blames Linnell for just greeting them casually last night before running off. Linnell secretly feels guilty. That must have been her actual brother who went to greet them. While the four of them are chatting, Kai suddenly changes the subject, mentioning that someone important is about to return. Linnell has no idea who they are talking about. Seeing Linnell wondering, Oman explains that the person is also participating in the Grand Magic Swordsmanship Tournament. Linnell seriously rubs her chin, deep in thought and trying to picture this mystery person. Seeing this, the pink-haired guy explains that he is a legendary young knight who has already achieved great military merits and is also a student of this academy. Right now, that powerhouse is stationed on the active battlefield, so he rarely appears around campus, just like a mirage. Linnell keeps thinking and thinking, yet she still can't recall a single thing regarding some genius or legendary mirage. Kai suddenly lets out a loud laugh and speaks up. That person is Dylan's ultimate rival, you know. Hearing that, Dylan looks highly unhappy and quickly clarifies. Furthermore, a crucial piece of information drops. That guy is also Lionel's official fiancé. Omen also takes the golden chance to laugh and endlessly tease Dylan. Who would have thought there is actually someone whom the grand and famous Crown Prince can't handle? Kai notices Linnell lowering her head in deep thought, so he steps forward to ask if something is wrong. Linnell still hasn't grasped the character in their story yet, so she asks who everyone is talking about. The other three stand completely frozen in surprise, but Kai also didn't expect this girl's processing time to be so painfully slow. He leans directly into her ear and whispers, "It's your fiancé." These sudden words scare Linnell so much, her entire soul almost leaves her physical body. The pink-haired guy looks utterly bewildered. Don't you know that Kwasoman is your twin sister's fiancé? In order not to expose her swapped identity, Linnell quickly spins an explanation while secretly cursing in her heart. She forgot about that irrelevant fiancé guy a long time ago, so how could she react in time? Then suddenly, a realization hits. She hasn't checked her mail yet. The pink-haired guy righteously chides her. No matter how busy you get, you should read the letters sent by your family. Linnell mumbles, "Yes, sir," but in her heart she is extremely worried. What on earth should she do now? Why on earth did he choose to return now? Even though he's technically her fiancé, she has absolutely no clue what his deal is and has always been utterly terrible at dealing with him, whether in her past life or this current one. A few days later, the prestigious academy officially kicks off its grand expedition training camp. The luxurious carriages have already made their way out to the remote suburbs, venturing deep into the pristine, dense mountains. Sitting inside the carriage, Linnell feels an incredibly overwhelming wave of anxiety wash over her. If that man is truly participating in the upcoming Magic Swordsmanship Tournament, he will undoubtedly show up at this exact expedition training camp. An unpredictable, dangerous guy like him. If he ever manages to uncover her true cross-dressing identity, it is completely over for her. Meanwhile, Annie sitting right next to her is completely hyped and bursting with excitement, endlessly looking forward to the adventures of this training camp. In stark, depressing contrast, Linnell is so stressed out that she can neither eat nor sleep in peace. To be completely honest, she is currently in absolutely no mood to even think about standard training. Suddenly, Linnell overhears some shocking gossip from the crowd. Senior Kwasoman isn't showing up after all. Ani is loudly sighing in deep disappointment, since they won't get the golden chance to train alongside the young prodigy this time around. Linnell's jaw literally drops to the floor in utter, breathless shock. Annie goes on to explain that it's simply because the elite knight's schedule is just too packed with imperial duties. Linnell feels an instant, massive wave of relief wash away her long-standing anxiety. She smiles happily. Not having to face him means she can finally focus 100% of her energy on this expedition. Finally, the students arrive at the rugged training grounds. Everyone is buzzing with chaotic excitement, eagerly gossiping about the upcoming room assignments. The exact moment her eyes lock onto the official notice, Lena is completely frozen in shock. 2 people per room. She is visibly trembling, her mind spinning in frantic circles. The main academy dorms are strictly single rooms, so why on earth do they have to share double rooms out here in the wild? On top of that catastrophic news, they even have to use a communal bathhouse. Does that mean she can't even take a proper shower during the entire training camp? While she is frantically clutching her head in despair, the white-haired guy laughs out loud, visibly thrilled that he gets to share a room with Linnell. But that just makes things 100 times more complicated. There is absolutely no way she can share a bedroom with an actual guy. In this critical, high-stakes moment of absolute panic, Kai smoothly steps forward and casually asks Linnell if she wants to room with him instead. The other 3 elite members of the F4 are completely shocked by the sudden proposal. Linnell's eyes instantly light up with hope, but the Crown Prince aggressively cuts in, roaring, "Are you completely out of your mind?" Kai merely flashes a deceptive smile and asks, "Oh, so you already made exclusive plans with him then?" Not even a single second later, Kai flips the switch to his dangerous, teasing persona and chuckles. Just kidding. This sudden pivot completely leaves Dylan utterly tongue-tied. Kai continuously dangles the premium perks to lure her into his trap. "My private suite has a fancy high-end bathtub, you know." Hearing this, Linnell's desperate heart sways just a little. Besides, Kai already knows her secret female identity, so she could easily use the bath all by herself, and it would definitely be way less dangerous than rooming with the clueless Ani. Her buddy Ani still has no clue he's being rejected. Meanwhile, the massive jealousy jar in the prince's heart instantly shatters into pieces. He fiercely asserts that there is absolutely zero practical need for the 2 of them to room together, but seeing Linnell's hesitant, wavering reaction, he can't fathom why she's still actively considering it. Without waiting around for Linnell to give an answer, Kai boldly takes matters into his own hands. Kai smugly announces to the entire crowd that Linnell will be rooming with him. After that, the 2 confidently head over to their assigned room together. The moment she steps inside the threshold, she is completely blown away. Linnell never expected this room to be not only insanely spacious, but also incredibly lavish. Kai casually explains that because Dylan explicitly said he would stay in this specific building, he had the entire place thoroughly renovated beforehand. She can't believe a rugged training camp location could be this ridiculously luxurious. However, there is only one bed. Kai suddenly leans in dangerously close to Linnell and whispers, "How exactly do you plan to repay me for this?" Linnell looks at Kai with intense suspicion. He smiles with his eyes closed, looking incredibly menacing. To keep her cross-dressing identity from being exposed to the public, Kai had to put in a massive amount of effort. On top of that, he brings up their old grudge from that night when Linnell flatly refused to dance with him. She opens her mouth to explain, but Linnell quickly stops herself. This cunning guy definitely just wants to make an absolute fool out of her again. Linnell refuses to fall for his trap, so she takes a deep breath and defiantly asks, "What exactly do you want me to do?" Witnessing Linnell's dead serious, intense expression, Kai can't help but steal a quiet chuckle. Her authentic reactions are truly entertaining to him. Initially, he only intended to lightly tease Linnell for his own personal amusement. Seeing Kai not responding to her question, Linnell impatiently speaks up. Suddenly, without warning, Kai reaches his hand out toward Linnell, making her whole world spin on its axis. Before Linnell can even attempt to react, she is completely pinned down onto the soft bed by Kai. Kai dangerously speaks up. "At the very next banquet, you're dancing exclusively with me. In your true female form, of course." But deep down in his soul, Kai is extremely unwilling to yield this fascinating girl to anyone else in the Empire. Even if that rival happens to be Dylan himself, it's a hard no. Speaking of Dylan, he is currently marching furiously down the hallway toward Kai's room at the very end. He is clearly madly jealous, yet he keeps aggressively brainwashing himself that he only cares about that scrawny brat because he likes his face, that's all. And now he has successfully unlocked an even more realistic excuse. He's the Crown Prince, so he has every right to monitor what everyone is up to. Very quickly, he arrives right at Kai's door. He notices something immediately. The door is slightly left ajar. The prince sneaks a tense peek inside, only to witness an absolute earth-shattering, life-altering sight. Those 2 are literally pinned on the bed, one on top of the other. From deep inside the room, Kai's smooth voice drifts out. After all, we've already seen each other when you had absolutely nothing on. These scandalous words completely flipped the Crown Prince's entire worldview upside down. An incredibly spicy, scandalous scene of those two interacting flashes vividly through his mind. Dylan can't take the torment anymore. He fiercely kicks the door wide open and storms in, yelling at the top of his lungs. "What on earth do you two think you're doing?" Linnell stares open-mouthed at the furious Crown Prince, who is blushing heavily from a toxic mix of pure rage and deep embarrassment. Meanwhile, Kai acts completely regretful and mockingly complains, "Why must you always disturb me at such a crucial moment?" The exact moment those words leave his lips, both Linnell and Dylan freeze dead on the spot. Just as she frantically feared, Dylan has completely and utterly misunderstood the situation. He tremblingly points a finger at the two of them and asks, "Are you guys actually in that kind of spicy relationship?" Fight. Provocatively wraps his arm tightly around Linnell's waist, flashing a mocking smirk as he says, "What's the harm in letting him know our secret?" These chaotic words leave Linnell totally baffled as to what on earth this psycho guy is trying to pull. But Dylan still hasn't fully processed the earth-shattering information. He extends his trembling hand, pointing directly at Linnell, and demands, "Do you actually like Kai?" Linnell hurriedly shoves the smug mage away and loudly denies the accusation. "What? He's just joking around." But Kai doesn't back her up at all. He calmly chimes in, "I'm definitely not joking." Linnell completely panics, her face blushing crimson. What kind of twisted, wicked game is this? The suffocating atmosphere among the three becomes incredibly bizarre. From the Crown Prince's biased perspective, Dylan immediately deduces that Linnell is likely being forcefully blackmailed into this. But since Kai is an elite F4 member, Linnell simply can't say no. If that is truly the case, he thinks he has the perfect heroic solution. And so the righteous Crown Prince steps forward with absolute authority, forcefully pulling Lionel toward himself. He absolutely has to save his best brother. The Crown Prince and his good buddy have officially turned against each other over this, leaving Linnell caught right in the middle like a fish out of water, still utterly clueless as to why they are actively fighting. Because they have a mandatory mock battle training session scheduled, the three of them temporarily put this tense matter aside. Once the grueling session ends, the crowd slowly disperses. Lionel feels completely drained and exhausted. She still has absolutely no idea what to do about her chaotic bedroom situation. Out in the grand main hall, everyone suddenly starts whispering and spreading wild gossip. Lionel instantly gets a highly sinister, incredibly bad premonition about what's coming next. Dylan commands everyone to check the notice board immediately, as the room assignments have been radically altered. Lionel curiously approaches the wall to take a tense look at the updates. Her pupils instantly dilate in absolute horror. Linnell has been forcefully reassigned to the exact same room as the Crown Prince. Lionel stands open-mouthed in sheer disbelief. How on earth did her life turn into such a chaotic mess? Kai smoothly steps in front of the Crown Prince, demanding to know why he and Liam are suddenly bunking together. Dylan, acting completely righteous, fires back. "Based on my tactical judgment, if he stays with a snake like you, he will be in grave danger." He then weaponizes his status as the Crown Prince, who must protect his imperial citizens, to shamelessly mask the fact that he's abusing his royal authority to force his crush into his room. Kai casually fires back a venomous retort. "You know, staying with a brute like you, Dylan, is infinitely more dangerous." Then Kai sharpens his keen eyes that see through every hidden motive to ruthlessly expose the truth. "You just wanted an excuse to sleep in the same room with Liam, didn't you?" The Crown Prince feels a sudden prick of guilt, blushing furiously as he loudly protests the accusation. Thinking back to that breathtaking girl from the banquet night, he desperately uses his preference for women to justify his unhinged actions this time. Kai merely lets out a smooth, "oh," and drops the argument, turning on his heel to exit. Before sauntering away, he drops a highly suggestive, toxic parting gift. "For the record, I like women too." While those two absolute powerhouses are having a heated, suffocating standoff over here, in another corner of the room, Linnell is completely losing her mind. What in the world is she supposed to do now? Why in the name of sanity does she have to share a claustrophobic bedroom with the tyrannical Crown Prince Dylan right now? The Crown Prince has absolutely no clue about the violent panic attack happening inside her head. He confidently leads Linnell to their massive suite, acting incredibly generous and flexing his wealth. As he introduces the space, this room is light years bigger than Kai's cramped quarters. Make yourself completely at home. The grand suite is indeed jaw-droppingly spacious. But there's just one catastrophic problem. There is only a single bed. Noticing that she looks incredibly stiff and uncomfortable, Dylan casually adds, "The mattress is colossal, so there's absolutely no issue with two grown men sharing it." Lynel frantically gnashes her teeth in internal fury. That single mattress is exactly the entire problem here, okay? Moreover, the even more terrifying part of this dilemma is she's deeply worried that she might be such a violent, chaotic sleeper that she'll accidentally kick the crown prince right onto the hard floor. If that disaster happens, is she going to get brutally executed all over again in this second life? Lynel hurriedly tries to construct an emergency escape route for herself, politely suggesting that she sleep on the sofa instead. The crown prince completely misinterprets her boundaries and speaks up to forcefully clarify. "Rest assured, I am nothing like that creep, Kai. I won't lay a single finger on you." Lionel is internally crying a literal river of tears. "That is not what I meant at all, you narcissistic weirdo. This is turning into a total disaster." The crown prince has completely misunderstood her dynamic with Kai. Lionel is just about to open her mouth and explain the situation when she is instantly cut off by Dylan's dominant tone. He casually commands her to go wash up and take a shower first. And just like that, the next life-threatening obstacle has officially arrived. Hearing this request, Lynel frantically shakes her head and tries to decline. Dylan doesn't register any of her bizarre panic, simply dismissing it. "It's fine, stop overthinking and just go wash up." Lionel feels that her entire vocabulary has been severely limited by pure survival instincts today. Seeing her hesitate at the threshold, Dylan straight up issues a royal order for her to get in the shower first. Yep, she's completely cooked. The volatile crown prince is already getting visibly irritated again. He even resorted to using a direct command. Staring into the dimly lit bathroom, Lynel feels like her life is officially over. Dylan is sitting right outside that thin door, and she is forced to strip completely naked in his personal quarters. But if he stays far away, hyper-focused on doing his royal paperwork over there, then surely nothing scandalous will happen, right? With that desperate cope, Lynel mutters her thanks and rushes in to take a shower. Meanwhile, Dylan desperately tries to maintain his inner calm before the inevitable storm hits. Dylan violently clutches his head, feeling incredibly bewildered and utterly confused by his own racing pulse. But well, he convinces himself it's purely because he's his crush's sibling. That is exactly why he is obligated to protect the kid. It's a perfectly logical, flawless excuse, totally for the grand sake of chasing his future wife. But inside the luxurious bathroom right now, Lynel is fully basking in the absolute comfort of the steaming water and fragrant rose petals. She aggressively slaps her own cheeks to wake herself up. She absolutely cannot afford to let her guard down around that man. No matter what happens, she can't let him discover her female anatomy. Because of that major risk, there is zero chance she can sleep on that bed. After turning off the water, she reaches for a plush towel to dry her wet hair while letting her mind wander about the sleeping arrangement. When suddenly, a creepy, crawly little friend appears on the wall. Lynel's face instantly turns pale with sheer, unadulterated horror. A piercing, high-pitched scream echoes through the suite, causing Dylan to literally tumble right off his chair. He frantically and anxiously roars out, demanding to know what the hell is happening inside. Without caring about basic boundaries anymore, he immediately storms the bathroom to ask what happened. Before he can even finish his sentence, Lynel has already sprinted out and thrown her arms tightly around Dylan's neck. The sudden, intense physical contact instantly makes Dylan's entire body freeze up and react. Only now, as the cool air hits her skin, does Lynel realize that she isn't wearing a single stitch of clothes. Dylan also blushes a violent crimson for some ungodly reason, his heart beating completely out of its normal rhythm. Lynel, on the other hand, is trapped in a state of absolute, life-ending anxiety. Because she was so utterly terrified of the bug, she accidentally lost her mind and ran out to hug him. At this disastrous rate, her entire secret is going to be exposed before Dylan can even process the naked body in his arms. Lynel hurriedly blurts out a panicked apology, then uses the absolute speed of light to flash back into the bathroom, violently slamming the door shut and leaving Dylan standing outside utterly dazed. Lynel hides behind the wooden door, trembling like a leaf as she thinks, "I retreated so fast, surely his dense eyes didn't notice anything, right?" Just as she desperately hoped, Dylan's brain still hasn't fully processed what on earth just transpired. Lynel summons every ounce of her remaining courage to crack open the door and poke her head out to apologize, but who would have thought the little spider friend would aggressively follow her out too? The exact second Lynel and the giant spider lock eyes again, another earth-shattering scream violently echoes through the entire room. Seeing Lynel frantically crying, "That monster! I'm deathly afraid of spiders!" Dylan finally connects the dots and understands the issue. He marches over to the tiny trespasser and, without a single moment of hesitation, grants it a free ticket straight out of the open window. Once the deed is done, Dylan turns back toward the bathroom and mutters, "I got rid of it." The bathroom door cracks open slightly, and only then does a trembling Lynel poke her head out again. With watery, tear-filled eyes, she stammers, Really?" Afterward, she even politely whispers a thank you. This incredibly cute sequence of actions makes Dylan feel like his heart is about to completely give out. A tense moment later, it's finally Dylan's turn to take a shower. He lies completely blankly in the steaming bathtub, obsessing over the chaotic events that just unfolded. So that scrawny little knight is actually terrified of tiny insects? Remembering the exact moment Lynel crashed into his chest, Dylan's face uncontrollably flushes hot. His body felt impossibly soft, his skin was incredibly fair, and his frame was so ridiculously slender. The more he tries to rationalize it, the more his forbidden thoughts begin to wander down a dangerous path. Dylan violently splashes freezing water onto his face to snap his brain out of the gutter. He aggressively keeps brainwashing his subconscious that the guy is 100% a dude, and he even tries to rationalize why his buddy Kai likes Lynel so much. Feeling that his thoughts are starting to completely defy the laws of standard biology and logic, Dylan frowns with a massive, pounding headache. As he keeps overanalyzing, Dylan's body acts even more honest than his words. He frantically slaps wave after wave of water onto his face over and over again to cool down. He is extremely agitated and finds it impossibly hard to control himself. Blaming it on the bathroom steam being way too hot, he calls for a servant to bring a fresh towel, shouting out several times. But when the hallway outside remains completely silent, he remembers that the servants were all reassigned elsewhere today. He uses a spare towel to dry himself off, blushing furiously, while realizing that right now, only he and Lynel are left entirely alone in this room. Stepping outside into the bedroom, he unconsciously feels a bit nervous and tense. By this time, Lynel has already changed into her oversized pajamas and is sitting quietly on the sofa. Seeing Dylan step out, she walks over, desperately wanting to explain the naked disaster from earlier. Who would have thought the Crown Prince's gait would look so completely off? He stumbles drunkenly and sways heavily toward the bed. Seeing the prince acting so unusual, Lynel hurriedly runs over to check on his condition. Dylan's entire body is burning hot to the touch, and he completely loses his balance from sudden dizziness. He loses his footing entirely and collapses heavily onto the bed. Lynel, caught completely off guard by his sudden fall, is dragged down right along with him, instinctively letting out a panicked cry. Dylan is currently seeing stars and feeling completely lightheaded from a massive fever. Seeing that the situation looks incredibly bad, Lynel figures the Crown Prince is probably short on oxygen, so she rushes to go break free and get some fresh water. Dylan, however, absolutely won't let her leave his side. He reaches out aggressively to hug Lynel, burying his face against her body as he weakly whispers, "Don't go." Lynel's face instantly flushes bright red, leaving her completely dazed and paralyzed. From Dylan's current fever-induced perspective, she is Liam's ethereal older sister, Lynel. Just like that, he stares up at her, completely infatuated, softly pouring sweet, intoxicating words straight into Lynel's ears. Hearing those 4 specific words, "I miss you so much," her heart violently flutters and races out of control. Dylan tightly grasps her hand and brings it directly to his lips. "I've always missed you so much. I finally get to hold you." Only now does a stunned Lynel realize that Dylan is completely mistaking her current self for the female Lynel. His chaotic mind right now is entirely filled with the vivid image of the fierce goddess pinning him down on the grass that day. Ever since that fated encounter, Dylan has been utterly unable to forget her presence. Lynel blushes furiously right along with him. She genuinely can't understand why a ruthless prince like him can't seem to forget her. Immediately after saying those words, he passes out cold. Lynel feels her own heart beating rapidly against her chest. Something completely unexpected is starting to sprout deep inside her tiny heart. She stares down at the terrifying tyrant lying so quietly in her arms, biting her lower lip as a sharp pang of pain hits her chest, forcing herself to make up her mind. This is the very monster who ordered my family's brutal beheading. I absolutely cannot let my guard down around him. The next morning at the outdoor training grounds, the bright morning sunlight beams aggressively across the room, making it physically impossible for anyone to sleep peacefully anymore. Dylan groggily wakes up from his deep slumber. He doesn't clearly remember the chaotic events of last night, but blurry images of the beautiful Linnell continuously flash through his mind. Dylan frantically flips the silk blanket open to search the sheets. But to his absolute surprise, his dream girl is nowhere to be found. Instead, he only sees his scrawny male buddy sleeping right next to him, literally drooling all over the pillow. The bedroom atmosphere is completely silent except for the heavy sound of Linnell's peaceful breathing. The crown prince tightly pinches the bridge of his brow, thinking, drooling this much? How on earth could a creature like this be a delicate woman? I must have been having a wildly unhinged dream. Yet his dream just felt so incredibly vivid and breathtakingly real. Afterward, Linnell sluggishly walks toward the main training hall, feeling a bit annoyed and disgusted with her own weakness. She honestly doesn't understand why she still chose to sleep in the exact same bed as the dangerous crown prince. If her strict father ever found out about this scandal, she would definitely never hear the end of it. Linnell sighs heavily, recalling the embarrassing incident from last night. She had fully thought her cross-dressing identity was exposed, but when Dylan woke up this morning, he seemed to still be completely clueless about the truth. After overanalyzing for a while, Linnell completely misinterprets the crown prince's true intent. She wildly assumes that when Dylan said he desperately wanted to meet the original Linnell, it was solely to arrest and execute her. Thinking up to this terrifying point, Linnell breaks into a cold sweat. But the prince's deeply affectionate confession yesterday felt so incredibly moving. It really didn't seem like a calculated act. Lionel sighs, clearing her mind as she steps onto the training grounds. This restricted training area is strictly reserved for elite swordsmen only. The exact moment she steps through the reinforced iron gate, the entire student body stops what they are doing and stares intently at her. The male students gather in toxic groups of 3 to 5, whispering and gossiping away. It looks like someone has intentionally spread malicious rumors to completely slander her reputation. Right now, the whole academy firmly believes she not only seduced Lord Kai, but is also actively throwing herself at Prince Dylan. An overwhelming atmosphere of pure jealousy and resentment rises up everywhere around the field. She instantly senses that things are looking a bit bad for her. One of the toxic male students among the crowd even maliciously mocks aloud. Does anyone else want to know what it takes to sleep with the elite F4? While Linnell is walking through the hostile crowd, Annie frantically runs up from behind her. He asks with a look of genuine worry, why on earth did His Highness the Crown Prince suddenly demand to share a room with a newcomer like you? Previously, the tense relationship between the two was like oil and water, but this time it suddenly became so tight, so Annie is naturally a bit worried about her safety. Linnell lets out a soft, "Oh." Deeply touched by his loyalty, she softly calls out Annie's name. Having a loyal best friend who genuinely cares about her well-being makes Linnell deeply moved, and her foul mood brightens up significantly. Seeing Linnell suddenly flash a grateful, radiant smile, Annie instantly blushes in pure embarrassment. The young boy is completely flustered, not daring to admit to himself that sometimes Linnell's smile is actually really cute. Because it's far too confusing, Annie decides to make a quick getaway. Kai stands not too far away, silently observing everything. He raises his voice to remind Dylan, because of your thoughtless actions, Liam has become the primary target of everyone's toxic gossip. His Highness the clueless Crown Prince still knows absolutely nothing about those rumors. He speaks up to demand, what petty gossip? Kai looks down at this massive idiot with purely judging eyes, then turns away helplessly. Dylan is truly an unimaginably slow-witted guy. The Crown Prince still wants to pull Kai back to clear things up. But an official announcement to begin training loudly echoes from behind. He keeps getting irritated continuously as the day goes on. The sharp clashing sound of heavy swords rings out everywhere. Linnell and Annie are assigned to the exact same team. Seeing Linnell fake stumble a bit to create an opening, Annie takes full advantage of the momentum and rushes forward with full force. But that was just a clever trick. Linnell intentionally exposed a glaring weakness. She lands a swift strike right on the back of Annie's neck with the heavy hilt of her sword. The definitive result is the same as usual. The undisputed winner is Lionel. She pants heavily, confidently defeating Annie once again. Unwilling to accept defeat, he lies flat on the ground, groaning and complaining. and here I thought I could finally beat Liam today. Lionel extends her hand, wanting to help him up, not forgetting to warmly encourage him. Your swordsmanship has significantly improved again. Being praised makes Ani's eyes instantly light up. The young boy proudly brags that his muscles have gotten much bigger lately, but looking closely, his best brother Liam is still remarkably thin. Annie enthusiastically suggests they go for another intense round. Linnell is bewildered, begging for a single moment to rest. But Ani is way too battle-hungry and basically doesn't listen to a word she says. Suddenly, Annie is struck with absolute horror. Right behind Linnell, a massive explosion violently erupts along with a giant flame rushing directly toward her. By the time she frantically turns around, the roaring fire is already right above her head. Annie screams at the top of his lungs, frantically calling out Liam's name in pure panic. Lionel instinctively covers her head, bracing for the worst. But after waiting for a long time and feeling zero impact, she slowly peeks her eyes open to look. In that split-second, high-stakes moment, a powerful figure steps forward to completely shield her body. That mysterious person has striking, fiery red hair and a long, prominent scar on one side of his face. He turns toward Linnell and asks, "Are you all right?" When she clearly sees the face of who just saved her, Linnell is too shocked for words. Why on earth is he here right now? It's her actual fiancé, Ziki Kwasoman. After the terrifying explosion aimed directly at Linnell, everyone in the area is in a complete panic. Annie, Dylan, and even Kai all frantically rush over to check on Linnell's safety. Seeing a literal crowd of men desperately surrounding her, she quickly reassures them. "I'm fine, I'm not hurt at all." But Linnell's lower leg has actually received a pretty deep, bleeding cut. Absolutely nothing can escape Ziki's sharp eyes. Omen immediately recognizes Ziki. He was just about to run over to enthusiastically greet his long-lost friend. But Ziki coldly turns around and completely ignores him. Lionel also happens to turn her head toward him at that exact same time. Annie and Dylan violently widen their eyes in absolute jaw-dropping shock. It's the wild sight of Ziki effortlessly hoisting Linnell up like a sack of potatoes. Before anyone present can even process what's happening, that savage guy has already carried Linnell away from the crowd. The entire squad is left utterly flabbergasted and stunned on the spot. Linnell, lying awkwardly on Ziki's broad shoulder, fiercely resists. "Put me down quickly. I can walk perfectly fine by myself." But there's absolutely no way he's listening. Ziki walks straight toward the infirmary. Arriving there, he doesn't utter a single word and firmly sets Linnell down on the bed. Only now does Linnell fully realize she was forcefully brought to the infirmary by him. After setting her down on the mattress, he silently begins rummaging around for medicine. Seeing Ziki's urgent actions, Linnell finally notices the blood. Turns out her leg is actually severely injured, and this intimidating man of few words brought her here solely to treat the open wound on her leg. Ziki still doesn't say another syllable, hyper-focusing all his attention on helping Linnell bandage it up. Staring at his intensely focused face, Linnell lets out a quiet sigh of relief, praying her identity hasn't been compromised yet. Who would have thought that in the very next second, Ziki would casually open his mouth to completely shatter her cover, demanding, "Tell me, what on earth are you doing here, Linnell?" Hearing her own name fall from his lips, her fragile wall of false reassurance instantly shatters into a million pieces. That sharp, murderous gaze radiating from his eyes is definitely not a joke. She swiftly turns her face away, desperately trying to play it cool as she retorts, "What exactly are you talking about, Ziki?" Ziki coldly fires back, "Stop playing dumb. I only need to catch a single hint of your scent to know it's you." Turns out his primal instincts have always made him extremely sensitive to her personal scent. He had been deployed away fighting at the brutal front lines for ages, and the absolute second he returned to the capital, he rushed to find his gorgeous fiancée, only to find her nowhere to be seen. Hearing this confession, Linnell feels a wave of pure shock wash over her as it is completely unexpected. She originally assumed their political engagement was just a boring arrangement by their parents' strict orders and that this cold man didn't care about her at all. After perfectly bandaging the bloody wound, Ziki stands tall and interrogates, "Why would a noble girl like you show up in a place like this?" Facing the stern, suffocating, and deeply questioning expression of her intimidating fiancé, Linnell visibly stammers as she frantically tries to construct a believable excuse to explain her presence. She hesitates in total panic for a brief moment, then musters up every single ounce of her remaining strength to passionately shout, "Because I want to become a powerful knight." Ziki is visibly taken aback by this fierce, unexpected reaction and defensive outburst, seeing that Ziki is absolutely not buying her ridiculous excuse. Linnell defiantly puts her hands on her hips and argues, "Why can Liam become a legendary knight while I'm forbidden from it? That is so incredibly unfair. Linnell desperately brings up the fact that her father personally allowed her to do this to convince Ziki to drop it. But it seems this exceptionally strict fiancé is going to be damn near impossible to persuade. He frowns deeply and grimly orders, "Pack your bags and return home right this instant." Linnell is naturally not the type to blindly listen and obey his commands so easily. She continues to fiercely argue her case with Ziki, but he remains completely unfazed, coldly stating, "Go home right now. This dangerous academy is not a playground for you to mess around in." This stubborn fiancé is turning out to be way tougher to handle than she initially anticipated. Lionel tightly clenches her fists, stares straight into Ziki's piercing eyes, and declares, "I didn't risk everything to come here just to play around. I am absolutely dead serious about this." She willingly threw herself into this chaos to completely rewrite the tragic future, to protect her beloved family, and to absolutely prevent the horrific execution that happened in her past life from ever repeating. Then, Ziki silently locks eyes with his fiery fiancé for a quiet moment, letting out a heavy sigh as he realizes Linnell is starting to throw one of her classic stubborn tantrums again. He has zero desire to keep arguing back and forth, and directly delivers his final ultimatum. "Go home. As for this academy mess, I will handle it personally." After dropping that bombshell, he turns on his heel toward the exit. If she foolishly lets him walk out of this door right now, she will really be dragged straight back to her estate. In the absolute peak of her blind panic, Linnell suddenly remembers her brilliant younger brother's secret advice. The locked memory flashes back into her mind at the absolute perfect time. Before she departed for the prestigious academy, Liam himself was worried sick when she declared she would disguise herself as him, while his chaotic older sister was completely cheerful without a single care in the world. Liam explicitly warned her that if she got caught by anyone, it would be game over, especially by Ziki, who would recognize her true identity with just a single glance. He is extremely unnaturally sensitive to absolutely anything related to Linnell. Linnell, however, didn't understand his anxiety, thinking her brother was just stressing over nothing, since they hadn't met in years, so he probably wouldn't remember her details. Liam merely made a ridiculous face as if to say, "Look how hilariously naive my older sister can be." Liam confidently stated that if she ever got cornered by Ziki, she just needed to weaponize these specific words. Linnell intently listened and absorbed every syllable. Right now, even though Linnell isn't entirely sure if that bizarre sentence will actually work, she has been backed into a literal corner, so she has to gamble it all. Linnell nervously swallows her saliva, mustering every shred of courage hiding inside her tiny, trembling body, then screams out at the top of her lungs, "If you do this, I will absolutely not marry you anymore." Ziki instantly freezes his footsteps in sheer, unadulterated shock. That world-ending threat from his precious fiancé hit him like a literal bolt of lightning from the blue sky. He silently ponders the gravity of her words for a moment, then speaks up. "Even so, I still cannot allow you to reside in a dorm full of horny men." Linnell knows that when it comes to the logistics of this matter, she is technically in the wrong. She quickly uses the legal fact that her father, the Count, explicitly agreed to let her stay here for exactly 1 year as a tactical shield. Linnell gently grabs Ziki's massive hand, pitifully begging him for mercy. Ziki doesn't give a direct answer, but instead counters with a question that isn't really related to the academy at all. "Then the moment this 1 year is up, will you willingly marry me as we originally agreed?" Seeing him finally starting to compromise, a desperate Linnell hurriedly nods and agrees to the terms. Oh boy. Our clueless female lead has officially fallen straight into the calculated trap of another sly, possessive wolf. In the end, Ziki begrudgingly accepts Lionel's stubborn request. Linnell, on the other hand, never expected that using their marriage as a bargaining chip would turn out to be this ridiculously effective. But there is still one lingering question Linnell always wonders about. Why does Ziki still desperately want to marry her? He stands to gain absolutely zero political or financial benefit from this marriage. After completely treating the wound, Linnell returns to the training grounds with Ziki by her side. The rhythmic clanking of steel swords, raw muscles flexing, and the heavy panting of exhausted boys fill the air. Ziki, in particular, is putting his absolute badass top-tier swordsmanship on full, mesmerizing display. Everyone looks on in pure, unadulterated admiration at every single one of Ziki's lethal sword strikes. He is, after all, the young prodigy of the nation, and he is incredibly, wildly popular with the entire student body. While wiping her sweat, Linnell glances over at Ziki's side of the courtyard. He has always been universally admired and idolized like that, but Ani is super hyped and bursting with pure excitement too. Ever since their arranged engagement, Ziki has always been stationed on the brutal front lines, meaning they haven't seen each other in years. In her tragic past life, when her family was falsely condemned, their engagement was instantly cancelled too. The two of them have grown deeply distant over time. Yet they were actually close childhood friends back in the day. Ziki used to always get completely wrecked by Linnell in their intense sword duels. Every single time that happened, Ziki would be extremely sore and salty about it, while Linnell would always smugly take the golden chance to flex her superior skills. Ziki would then cry like a total pathetic baby out of pure frustration. The tearful young boy desperately tried to explain his defeat, but instead of making excuses, he looked up and asked if Linnell genuinely liked strong guys. Back then, a savage Linnell firmly stated, "I only like guys who are actually strong and don't cry all the damn time." Hearing that, Ziki blushed furiously, and the young boy made up his mind that he would never shed another tear, vowing to train with everything he had to become even stronger than Linnell. Linnell fondly thinks to herself how absolutely adorable Ziki was back in those days. The little boy from back then, who did nothing but cry his eyes out when he lost a duel, has now transformed into a tall, imposing alpha man. Gently touching the cold sword resting at her waist, Linnell bitterly feels she can no longer hold a candle to her monstrously powerful childhood friend. As evening approaches, the grueling training session finally wraps up. The dominant crown prince steps over and curtly tells Linnell to head back to the room. Hearing this command, Ziki asks in utter, dangerous confusion why His Highness Dylan is calling Liam back to his personal quarters. His Highness the Crown Prince casually replies, "Because this kid is my personal roommate." Ziki's deep displeasure instantly bleeds across his handsome face. He righteously points out the blatant class difference. Liam is just the son of a mere marquis. How could he possibly share a private room with your royal highness? These provocative words, on the contrary, successfully trigger Dylan's explosive temper. He impatiently fires back, "That's absolutely none of your business, and it has nothing to do with you." Ziki refuses to back down an inch, weaponizing his status as the future brother-in-law and Lionel's official fiancé to take total charge of this chaotic matter. This bold statement is basically pouring premium gasoline onto a raging fire. The suffocating tension here is even worse than when Kai and Dylan were aggressively clashing earlier. She silently and boldly guesses that the toxic relationship between these two alpha males seems to be pretty terrible. In the end, to de-escalate the drama, Linnell follows Ziki over to a completely different room. The exact moment she opens the heavy door, she is quite pleasantly surprised. This is just a standard, perfectly normal single dorm room. After giving Linnell some strict protective instructions, Ziki leaves her to head to his own room. Lionel is left standing there, a little confused by his sudden kindness. But it's highly probable because he knows she's a girl that Ziki is giving her this special, private accommodation. The precise moment he clicks the wooden door shut, Ziki completely drops his stoic facade and exposes his true colors as a total, hopeless simp for his wife, continuously obsessing that his fiancé is just super-duper cute, getting more breathtakingly adorable by the day. Although her long, silky hair was beautiful, the short haircut suits her perfectly too. She really is getting cuter and cuter. Surely no one would ever guess that the Empire's feared young prodigy would maintain such a serious, deadly expression just to internally simp over his crush. At the same time, he never expected his precious fiancée would be forced to sleep around a bunch of guys, and it looks like those absolute dudes all really like her. This realization makes him extremely insecure, because deep down in Ziki's heart, the sole motivation that pushed him to become an OP, legendary prodigy was Lionel alone. There is absolutely zero chance he's yielding Linnell to anyone else on this earth, not even the literal crown prince. Finally, the chaotic expedition training camp officially comes to an end. The exhausted students all return to the Grand Academy. Linnell and Ani are walking down the main street when suddenly, a loud, dramatic commotion from the male and female students catches their attention. Both of them wonder what on earth is going on to cause such a massive, chaotic scene. Linnell looks toward the massive crowd and lets out a soft, "Oh!" Turns out the center of attention is Ziki. He is walking past with a snobby blonde girl. At this moment, Linnell suddenly remembers that Ziki hasn't deployed to the front lines yet. He's still staying at the academy with them. She doesn't know when he'll forcefully drag her back home, so while Ziki is still looming around, she decides she needs to lay low and stay under the radar. Looking closely, it seems Ziki is currently acting as a personal bodyguard for that elite blonde young lady. While Linnell and Ani are quietly whispering and discussing this weird pairing, they suddenly see the crazy blonde lady fiercely pointing her finger at a terrified student not too far away, loudly scolding them. How dare a peasant like you wear a hair bow of the exact same color as mine? You clearly don't know your pathetic place. The poor student quickly bows and apologizes upon hearing this outburst. But the unhinged blonde girl isn't satisfied at all and viciously demands that the student destroy. The bullied girl has no choice but to awkwardly ask to be excused and quickly leaves first. That snobbish, dramatic young lady even elegantly flips her hair to show off her absolute superiority. Watching the toxic scene play out, both Linnell and Ani are left completely speechless. It's best to just pretend they don't even know her. But Linnell rubs her chin, carefully thinking it through for a split moment. Turns out that bratty girl is Lady Cilia. Linnell feels like the name sounds incredibly familiar, but she can't seem to recall exactly where she heard it before. While she is deep in thought, another sudden wave of gasps echoes at the exact same time. The Academy's elite F4 makes their grand appearance, looking as incredibly handsome and untouchable as always. The moment Lady Cilia sees the Crown Prince arrive, she instantly flashes a sweet smile and squeals, "I missed you so much," completely shedding her fierce, demonic look from a moment ago. In stark, depressing contrast to Cilia's overwhelming excitement, Dylan is visibly not pleased. With a thoroughly disgusted look plastered on his face, he coldly asks, "Why the hell are you here?" Lady Cilia enthusiastically runs toward Dylan, explaining as she walks, "Starting tomorrow, I'll be officially attending this academy. Could you give me a private tour around this boring place?" When Cilia desperately reaches out her hand, wanting to grab Dylan's sleeve to shamelessly show off their intimacy, he coldly and swiftly dodges her grasp. This rejection makes her extremely displeased. No one has ever dared to reject a beautiful, high-ranking noble lady like her like this before. But Dylan doesn't even bother to pay an ounce of attention to her anymore and immediately leaves with the elite F4 squad. Omen chuckles in sheer amusement, though it's a bit awkward, but Dylan still maintains that same old frosty attitude and Lady Cilia hasn't changed a bit either. "Meki," quietly adds, "The only thing keeping that crazy girl from going completely insane is her fiancé, who is none other than Dylan." Dylan gets instantly irritated. "We were forcefully arranged into an engagement. It's not like we actually like each other, okay? If you guys are so damn smart, go stop that unhinged woman yourself." Kai smoothly refuses to take any responsibility, not wanting to get tangled up in toxic trouble with that crazy girl. The squad exits, leaving the blonde lady standing there, completely humiliated and rejected. Linnell stands safely to the side, thoroughly enjoying the drama. After witnessing that chaotic scene just now, she suddenly pieces the puzzle together and remembers. That obnoxious young lady is actually the Crown Prince's official fiancée, named Cilia Nausicalis. She's the ruthless type of person who looks down on everyone. As long as someone slightly displeases her, she's ready to torment them to death. Those unfortunate souls who get targeted by her usually have absolutely no way of appearing in the noble social circle ever again. Because of her terrifying reputation, she is famously known across the empire by the nickname Poison Flower Princess, exactly as the name implies. Thinking up to this terrifying point, Linnell tells herself she must stay far away from this venomous snake, otherwise it's going to cause massive trouble. The next morning, the exact moment Linnell walks down to the main hall, she is already treated to some juicy new drama. She catches a clear glimpse of Cilia tightly linking arms with the Crown Prince and stubbornly insisting that he go have lunch with her. Dylan's face shows nothing but absolute, pure disgust, while Cilia completely pretends not to notice, clinging to him tightly without ever letting go. Linnell tells herself to just pray silently in her heart and stay far away from these two lunatics. Who would have thought Dylan would pull a fast one on her? He suddenly calls Linnell over. She is startled by the loud shout and gets even more panicked. Dylan hurriedly brushes Cilia's hand off, desperately explaining that their relationship is not what everyone thinks. A giant question mark pops up in Lionel's head. Completely unsure what on earth His Highness the Crown Prince is trying to say, Dylan anxiously continues, "Don't misunderstand. Even though we have an engagement, that specific matter..." Dylan doesn't know what words to use to describe it. He is so flustered and anxious that his entire face turns crimson red, stammering, "Don't misunderstand!" From beginning to end, Linnell still has absolutely no idea what's going on. Meanwhile, Cilia's fake sweet expression turns completely grim and murderous. At this exact moment, even Dylan himself doesn't know why he feels the absolute, desperate need to explain this matter to Liam. Cilia can't take the humiliation anymore and wants to aggressively pull Dylan away. but he once again brutally brushes her hand off in a highly decisive, cold manner. Who would have thought the shoving force was a bit too strong, causing a shocked Celia to completely lose her balance? She slips and falls backward, down the stone stairs. Seeing this impending disaster, Linnell instinctively rushes forward to catch her. Dylan frantically and anxiously shouts out loud, not expecting Linnell to take such a risky move. A loud thud echoes throughout the hall, and as a direct result, both of them tumble down. Linnell hits her head pretty hard in the brutal fall. His Highness the Crown Prince, seeing this horrific sight, doesn't care about his crying fiancé at all. He frantically rushes over to anxiously check on Linnell. She quickly and nimbly stands up to prove to everyone watching that she's perfectly fine and unharmed. These bizarre actions make Lady Celia extremely suspicious and furiously jealous. She genuinely can't understand why Dylan doesn't care about his own fiancé, but instead treats that random guy so incredibly well. Just look at how lovey-dovey they are. Isn't that intense way of caring for a brother a bit too much? Moreover, looking at the gentle smile and the melting, affectionate eyes that Dylan gives Linnell, is there something scandalous going on that she doesn't know about? Celia quickly runs out to the isolated garden, screaming in pure, unadulterated rage to vent her toxic frustration. Clearly, she is the official fiancé, so those affectionate eyes and that deep care should be directed toward her instead. Celia has never once seen Dylan flash such a gentle, warm smile at her. That man over there, just what on earth is he? Just because he has a slightly cute, boyish face, he thinks he can flaunt around the prince like that? Talk about pure, unmitigated arrogance. Celia is furious, wanting to completely and utterly eliminate Linnell from the picture. In the absolute peak of this madness, a creepy voice suddenly rings out behind her, asking if she wants to get rid of that annoying man blocking her path. Furious and startled, Celia swiftly turns around. Turns out it's a mysterious figure dressed in a dark black cloak. He calmly says he's here to help Celia eliminate Linnell for good, as long as she follows his precise orders. Celia hesitates for a brief moment, not entirely trusting this shady guy. She asks suspiciously, "Can you really get rid of him without leaving a trace?" She only sees him saying absolutely nothing while letting out a deeply sinister, chilling laugh. Celia gets instantly irritated. At a critical time like this, how dare that random guy mock her to her face? She aggressively urges him to quickly spit out the plan so she can evaluate it. On a gloomy day, when heavy dark clouds roll in and completely cover the academy, Linnell is taking a peaceful walk by herself. By now, she has developed a proper, disciplined swordsman's posture. While walking, she is suddenly called out by someone. Celia, wearing a sweet, fake smile, runs toward Linnell. That bubbly, hypocritical act of hers is honestly painful to watch. She, along with her two formidable bodyguards, steps forward, wanting to walk with Linnell for a bit while heading toward the training grounds to have a little private chat. Seeing Celia smiling and acting unusually welcoming like this, Linnell instantly feels a bit suspicious. Previously, she only ever smiled like that at Dylan, but lately she has been constantly approaching her and treating her well. What on earth is going on behind the scenes? Linnell is highly suspicious of Celia's upcoming actions. While lost in thought, the girl suddenly calls out to Linnell. She puts on a shy, innocent act saying, "Actually, I have something super important to tell you," and suggests, "This busy place isn't convenient. Let's go somewhere more private." Celia drags Linnell into a secluded private room, completely surrounded by armed guards stationed outside. Feeling a deep sense of unease, Linnell demands, "Lady Celia, if you actually have something to say, please just say it." Who would have thought Celia would suddenly blush furiously, stammering like some fragile, introverted girl about to make a major move? Out of nowhere, she turns toward Linnell to desperately confess, "The truth is, I like you." Linnell blinks her eyes in sheer shock. These unbelievable words catch her completely off guard. Looking at this unhinged young lady claiming to like her, what kind of sick joke is this? Utterly stunned, Linnell quickly waves her hands and stammers, "But Lady Celia, you're His Highness Dylan's official fiancé." Celia lets out an, "Oh," quickly thinking it over, and instantly crafts a deceptive, ready-made script the moment Dylan's name is mentioned. She lies straight to her face without blinking. "To be honest, His Highness Dylan is madly in love with me, his precious fiancé. He even whispers sweet nothings to me all the time, but I just have absolutely no way of accepting his intense feelings." These delusional words leave Linnell completely dazed, raising a massive question mark in her mind. Clearly, Dylan's real attitude has been incredibly cold and disgusted, making this look more like a toxic stalker facing an idol. Linnell unconsciously tries to imagine the arrogant crown prince acting like a total tsundere and whispering sweet words, finding it absolutely impossible to picture. While Linnell is momentarily distracted by her thoughts, a scheming Celia has already unbuttoned her own top. She grimly declares, "In reality, the only one I truly love is you, Lord Liam." As she speaks the words, she forcefully grabs Linnell's hand and yanks it toward her chest. From the outside looking in, the scandalous scene right now looks exactly like Linnell is pinning her against the wall and forcing herself on her. Before Linnell can even process what's happening, that sly girl Celia smirks maliciously and tears undoes the remaining button. Celia has already stripped off her top and suddenly screams at the top of her lungs. This blatant, unhinged framing attempt leaves an innocent girl like Linnell completely jaw-dropped. The manipulative girl tries her absolute hardest to shriek, "Someone help! Save me from this beast!" Hearing the frantic noise, the two formidable bodyguards outside immediately burst through the reinforced door. Only now does a panicked Linnell realize that the entire situation has gone terribly, horribly wrong. Inside the chaotic room, Celia is looking incredibly aggrieved, clutching her exposed chest and her torn shirt, looking exactly like she's just been brutally violated, before Linnell can even open her mouth to explain. Those two guards instantly draw their lethal swords. She instinctively backs away, drawing her own training sword while desperately trying to explain the misunderstanding. But in a chaotic trap like this, absolutely no one is listening to anyone. She has to quickly swing her sword in pure self-defense. Our female lead's innocent mind still can't comprehend why Celia would orchestrate such a disgusting thing. That crazy girl, meanwhile, viciously orders them to quickly capture and restrain Linnell. Linnell frantically fends off their heavy strikes while trying to think of a way to escape. But she is heavily, hopelessly outnumbered. She is currently backed into a literal corner. If she gets caught in this position, she'll definitely be branded a disgusting criminal. One of the stealthy guards quickly flanks Linnell from the side. This is her weakest spot and complete blindside, but just as the guard's sharp sword is about to viciously strike Linnell, someone rushes into the room at lightning speed. Fortunately, it's Ziki, appearing just in the nick of time to effortlessly block this deadly sword strike for her. Linnell is utterly shocked by Ziki's sudden, heroic appearance at a critical time like this. Even Celia didn't expect this massive hitch in her calculated plan. He darkly declares that their opponent now is him. With one single, powerful strike, one of the elite guards is sent flying across the room. The remaining guard doesn't dare make any more reckless or aggressive moves. Ziki truly lives up to his legendary title as the Empire's young prodigy. In just a split second, both bodyguards are completely knocked out cold. Seeing that she's finally been saved, Linnell quickly turns around to thank her childhood friend. Suddenly, Dylan's booming voice echoes out of nowhere. "What the hell is going on here?" Dylan is standing tall, furious, and imposing right at the shattered doorway. With a cold, expressionless face, his sharp eyes immediately assess the entire chaotic situation. Following closely behind his shadow, the remaining 3 elite members of the F4 squad walk in one by one. Celia instantly puts on a pitiful, sobbing act, clutching her torn clothes as she runs toward Dylan. With fake tears streaming down her face, she cries, "Suddenly, Lord Liam tried to forcefully violate me in the dark." She strains her voice to viciously accuse Linnell. "Daring to touch the Crown Prince's official fiancé is absolutely, undeniably unforgivable." She stands completely frozen in place, completely dumbfounded by the sheer audacity. Linnell internally panics, realizing that in a terrible situation like this, even if she tells the absolute truth, no one will necessarily believe a low-ranking noble. Laying a hand on the future empress carries the mandatory death penalty. Even her entire family could be completely implicated, repeating the horrific, bloody mistakes of her past life. Linnell thinks, trembling in pure terror, that she worked so hard to get to this point. Could it be that her tragic destiny truly can't be changed no matter what? Is her entire beloved family going to die at this heartless man's hands all over again? With a heart full of suffocating anxiety and fear, Linnell looks at Celia, who is bitterly continuing her false accusations. The toxic girl still holds on tight, refusing to let the matter drop, shouting, "I heard he's just a trashy male concubine who has seduced many naive male students at the academy." Rumors reaching this disgusting level make Linnell break into a heavy, cold sweat. Celia's shrill voice keeps blaring, "Your Highness Dylan, you are the absolute leader of this academy. Allowing such a vile predator to stay here will completely tarnish your supreme authority." She follows up with a rapid barrage of manipulations to get Dylan to quickly sentence Linnell to death on the spot. While Linnell is sinking deep into hopeless despair, Dylan finally speaks up. "Liam is my dear friend." Suddenly, Linnell feels like she has found a brilliant ray of light in her dark situation. "Dylan, righteously declares that from now on, no one is allowed to demean his good brother in front of his face. Linnell's pupils violently dilate in pure shock, unable to believe that the prince actually trusts her over his own fiancé. Dylan grips Celia's trembling shoulder tightly and heavily whispers, "You don't ever need to bring up my authority." He looks down at a stunned Celia coldly, disdainfully declaring, "Do you honestly think a petty, transparent trick like this could ever threaten my authority?" Celia can't believe her own ears as she stares up at Dylan. It seems today she messed with the absolute wrong person, the crown. The crown prince continues to fiercely speak up. "Even if she is my official fiancé, absolutely no one is allowed to violate the supreme authority of the crown prince." Celia hurriedly shakes her head in pure panic. She really has a big mouth but zero brains. She quickly tries to explain, "I didn't mean to insult you." Before she can even finish her sentence, Dylan brutally cuts Celia off, using his absolute authority as the crown prince to pronounce an immediate execution sentence on Celia Nozacalis. Now, who's the one falling into the dark abyss of hopeless despair, the shocking sight of the crown prince directly ordering the execution of his own fiancée leaves everyone present in the room utterly stunned and frozen. Even Omen, who usually plays around, and Kai, who is normally indifferent to everything, are totally shocked to their core. Maka is no exception and breaks into a heavy, cold sweat. As for Dylan, his murderous gaze remains extremely resolute. Lionel also cannot believe this ruthless, unhinged judgment from Dylan. Celia, upon hearing the terrifying word execution, starts trembling uncontrollably, looking a world away from her arrogant, high and mighty attitude just a moment ago. She desperately clings to Dylan's boots, begging him for mercy and forgiveness. But suddenly remembering that mysterious person who put her up to this, she decides she must drag that guy out to take the fall. But before she can even finish her sentence, her mind rings with a deafening, psychological clanging sound, completely robbing her of the ability to speak as if someone else is dark controlling her body. Celia can only tremble in sheer terror, her pupils dilating in horror. Completely losing all her remaining strength, she can no longer even stand steady on her feet. Hearing that horrific word, execution, this is the exact traumatic trigger in Lionel's mind. She can no longer process the actual reality and situation around her. A bloody, violent storm of terrifying images from her previous life flashes in Lionel's mind once again. She stands frozen, vividly remembering the scene of her father and younger brother falling one after another right before her eyes. This overwhelming trauma has reached its absolute limit, utterly breaking through the emotional defense she had tried so hard to build up all this time. Dylan, finally realizing she doesn't look right, speaks up to anxiously ask, "Are you all right?" He then reaches his royal hand out toward Lionel's shoulder. How could he possibly know that any contact from the tyrant crown prince right at this moment is a psychological nightmare of extreme terror for her? Lionel instinctively swings her hand away and violently pushes Dylan's arm off. This unexpected action leaves Dylan completely hanging in disbelief. He looks at Lionel, completely unable to understand her hostility. The entire elite F4 squad can't understand what the hell is going on either. Even Ziki can't read Lionel's erratic, panicked emotions at this exact moment. As for Lionel, her inner emotions are currently in complete, chaotic ruin. This heartless man is truly too terrifying. Dylan jolts back in utter surprise. Lionel tightly covers her head as warm tears stream down her pale face. She doesn't want to experience that horrifying, cold feeling on the bloody execution scaffold ever again. Dylan is completely flustered. He doesn't understand why his close buddy would suddenly start crying like a fragile girl. Lionel screams at the top of her lungs, "Stop it! Stop the execution right now!" Instinctively, screamingly asking the crown prince to revoke a royal order is an absolute treasonous taboo. Seeing her being so wildly disrespectful to the crown prince, Ziki quickly reminds her to watch her damn words. Then, Ziki proactively steps forward to beg the crown prince for royal forgiveness, saying he will properly and strictly discipline him himself. He then immediately drags a trembling Lionel away from this toxic, chaotic room. Dylan silently stares at the retreating backs of the two of them. He doesn't understand why his genuine kindness and desire to protect were met with such a resentful, hateful gaze from that guy. He even broke down and cried like that. What on earth did he do so wrong here? Dylan furiously gnashes his teeth in anger. This whole dramatic situation is so damn exhausting. In a massive fit of rage, he orders his royal guards to lock Celia in the deepest dungeon and calls off the execution for now. Right now, the blonde girl is still completely scared out of her wits. At this time, Oman cautiously speaks up, wanting the furious crown prince to calm down and take a breath. But it seems like Dylan has already completely lost control of his inner demons. Omen is also silently terrified, realizing that even if they're close childhood friends, Dylan is still scary as hell when triggered. Hai grimly realizes that Dylan's underlying mental illness is acting up once again. But at chaotic times like this, he can't see the surrounding situation clearly. That's the toxic result of his previous impulsiveness, which always accidentally hurts both himself and others. Years ago, when Dylan's mother tragically passed away, he also wore that exact same terrifying, cold expression. Ever since meeting Linnell, Dylan has actually changed a lot, but right now, the tense situation seems to have reverted to how it used to be. Hai sincerely hopes that the old, bloodthirsty Dylan won't make a permanent comeback. Inside the dark, damp dungeon, a place completely deprived of any warm sunlight, Celia has been roughly thrown into a cold cell to repent for her sins and await her final sentence. While she is sitting helplessly on the dirty floor of her prison cell, a chilling voice suddenly rings out from the shadows. That mysterious cloaked person has appeared before her once again. Celia can't believe her own eyes. She stumbles to her feet in panic and asks, "Why the hell are you here?" That guy casually says that since he masterfully wields high-level magic, entering a secure place like this is as easy as turning over his hand. Turns out, she was just being played like a pathetic little fiddle by him this whole time. Celia furiously lunges toward that masked man. It's entirely because of this bastard. If it hadn't been for his malicious instigation, she would never have ended up in such a miserable, pathetic state. Celia violently rattles the heavy iron bars, loudly ordering, "Break me out of this hellhole immediately. This is all your goddamn fault." The mysterious man merely snorts in amusement. He slowly extends his hand toward Celia, mockingly sneering, "You play the game, you pay the ultimate price, little girl." He presses dangerously close to the iron bars, whispering in a chilling voice, "Back then, you were actually planning to betray and expose me, weren't you?" Then, with a sudden violent whoosh, a glowing magic circle abruptly manifests from that guy's palm. The eerie magical light violently constricts around Celia's neck as rows of forbidden characters from the magic circle gradually seep deep into her skin. She trembles violently, clutching her throat, completely unable to comprehend the horrific thing that just happened to her. The mysterious man darkly threatens, "I have officially placed a lethal curse upon your soul." Celia is utterly petrified, her entire face turning a ghostly, deathly pale. "If you ever dare to utter a single word of the truth, it will execute you instantly before you can even gasping out any last words." Saying that, he coldly turns around and vanishes, leaving a broken Celia all alone in the gloomy, suffocating darkness of the prison cell. Her entire body trembles uncontrollably as she lets out a few desperate gasps and pathetic mumbles, utterly unable to utter a single coherent word. Sometime later, the chaotic aftermath finally settles down for the time being. Over at Linel's private room, Ziki suddenly materializes out of nowhere at this exact moment. She slowly and cautiously pokes her head out of the heavy wooden door. As the Academy's highly anticipated long break finally arrives, the elite students return home, one by one, which also marks the exact time Ziki has to deploy on a dangerous expedition. Before marching out, he specially detours to find Linnell just to say his final goodbyes. Ziki promises that the very second he returns from the front lines, he will immediately come find Linnell. He sincerely and fiercely declares that no matter what apocalyptic event happens, Ziki will always stand as an unbreakable shield by Linnell's side. Hearing this intense confession, Linnell is left totally dazed and breathless. Even though it's clearly not some cliché, lovey-dovey romance, there is an undeniably deep, indescribable bond forging between the two of them, especially when fueled by Ziki's absolute, unyielding determination and intensely possessive gaze. After delivering his heavy piece, he turns on his heel and decisively walks away into the sunset. Linnell also can't help but notice Ziki's subtle, incredibly gentle care for her safety. She's a bit surprised by this revelation, because this warrior's rough outward appearance doesn't make him look like someone who knows how to deeply care for others. With a heavy heart, Linnell returns to the quiet, empty room. Slowly, everything has returned to its regular, everyday track. Although a broken Lady Celia was eventually released, she was placed under a high-level silencing curse and literally cannot speak the truth. In the end, Linnell still knows absolutely nothing about the dark truth behind the entire incident. Even though the girl briefly mentioned being instructed by someone else, the investigators still couldn't find a single trace of the mastermind hiding behind the scenes. Lionel boldly and anxiously guesses whether the phantom threat who struck this time around and the shadowy culprit behind Alice's poison tea party the other day are the exact same entity or entirely different enemies. Lionel lets out a long, exhausted sigh while packing her heavy luggage to prepare for the long break, but her brilliant mind is still completely lost. in deep, anxious thoughts about her being wildly disrespectful to the hot-tempered crown prince. Since that dramatic confrontation, the two of them haven't crossed paths or met each other again. Lionel tightly clenches her fists, telling herself it's still best to stay a healthy distance away from that dangerous alpha guy. It's significantly better that way. That brutal person, after all, once mercilessly ordered the public execution of her entire family, and even treated his own literal fiancé so coldly and ruthlessly. She absolutely should not get involved with him ever again, not even a single microscopic bit. A few peaceful days later, she finally finishes packing up the last of her luggage. All that's left on her agenda is to grab her bags and depart tomorrow morning. But Linnell's deep-rooted trauma has already formed a psychological scar. No matter how determined she claims to be, vivid images of Dylan keep flashing in her mind one after another. From the chaotic previous tea party to the very first time the two clashed when she was in her stunning female appearance, all the way to the awkward, tense moments during the expedition training camp. Coming back to her senses, no one knows exactly when Dylan's dominant shadow began permanently lingering somewhere deep in Linnell's subconscious mind. Right at this exact, quiet moment, a sharp knocking sound suddenly echoes from outside the glass window. She swiftly opens the window and sees a majestic messenger carrier pigeon perched there. It elegantly flaps its wings, glowing with a beautiful, sparkling magical light. And then the mystical bird seamlessly transforms into a sealed letter. Linnell is a bit surprised by the presentation. It seems to be Liam's signature magic. While breaking the seal to open the letter, Linnell guesses, could it be that father is throwing a tantrum about her returning home late? But the shocking content of the letter is completely beyond Linnell's wildest expectations. Reading each frantic word, her small hands begin to tremble uncontrollably. Her younger brother wrote this letter in utter, absolute despair. Turns out a furious Dylan went all the way to the Liam Grand estate to hunt down Linnell, even arrogantly declaring he won't return to the capital until he meets her face to face. Liam urgently reports this terrifying news so that Linnell can rush back home as soon as humanly possible. Linnell visibly trembles as she stares blankly at the ink, desperately wondering why on earth the prince went all the way to her private house to find her. Could it be that the tyrant Dylan went to find her specifically to settle old scores and execute her? But wait, she suddenly gets a massive brain blast. The one who caused all that explosive trouble at school was the male identity Liam, so why on earth did Dylan go looking for the female Linnell? Right now, Linnell desperately needs to find a way to return early, but traveling from the academy to the remote Liam territory takes more than half a day by carriage. Using high-level teleportation magic seems like the only viable option, but who in this entire academy is close enough to her to be utilized for such a massive favor? A brilliant idea suddenly flashes in her mind. Right now, the only person capable of helping her pull this off is that OP, high-level magic prodigy. Over at the separate luxury dorm wing reserved strictly for top-tier magicians, the F4's legendary genius Kai is elegantly enjoying his peaceful, quiet time reading a rare book. He looks exactly like a divine being, stepping straight out of a masterpiece painting, radiating an ethereal, otherworldly aura, completely untouched by worldly dust. Suddenly, a loud, disruptive knock rings out from outside the mahogany door. Kai's personal butler walks in to formally inform him about an unannounced, low-ranking visitor. Kai, who is currently deeply immersed in reading his book, doesn't care much at all and coldly prepares to reject this unexpected, annoying visit. But the very second after hearing the butler mention the visitor's actual name, Kai's icy attitude instantly pulls a complete, jaw-dropping 180-degree turn. He doesn't even care about the priceless book anymore, tossing it straight onto the floor like trash, and immediately stands up with absolute, blinding lightning speed, making absolutely sure he looks extra sharp before heading out to meet his unexpected guest. Down in the grand hall, Linnell is standing meekly, anxiously waiting for Kai to arrive. The sharp sound of Kai calling out her name instantly snaps a dazed Linnell straight back to reality. An absolute, breathtakingly handsome Kai finally makes his grand appearance. The moment she locks eyes with him, Linnell urgently begs, "I have a desperate request that is quite literally a matter of life and death." Kai is slightly surprised by her sudden proactiveness. Let's see, a request involving life and death, huh? He suddenly traps Linnell against the wall in a highly suggestive, dominant posture. Getting dangerously close to her face, he whispers, "Then a payment involving your life is going to be incredibly expensive, little girl. Is your fragile heart actually prepared to pay it?" That day, when Linnell suddenly covered her head and broke down crying, Kai was extremely, deeply worried about her. Fortunately, she seems to have calmed down now. Linnell is completely frozen by Kai's bold action. Seeing her not responding, Kai asks again, "Well, what is your choice?" Linnell jolts, finally processing the intense situation. Kai possesses top-tier monstrous magic power, so it's only natural that his professional fee is ridiculously expensive. Realizing that Kai is the only capable person who can help her right now, Linnell tightly clenches her fists and replies, "I understand." Kai looks down at Linnell with deep interest, waiting for her answer. But the straight-shooting girl, full of raw determination, declares, "As long as it's something I am physically capable of doing, I will absolutely do it, so please help me." Kai stares intently into Linnell's eyes and can't help but let out a helpless, amused sigh. Linnell is also quite surprised that Kai's actual reaction is a complete world away from what she expected. Kai is even more surprised by this dangerously naive personality trait of hers. It's actually a bit terrifying how the moment she opens her mouth, she blindly claims she can do absolutely anything. "You seriously need to learn how to doubt other people, you know?" Linnell looks up at him in complete bewilderment, utterly and thoroughly dumbfounded. Kai helplessly continues, "You still don't seem to grasp the danger, do you? The payment looks a little something like this." As Kai speaks the words, he gently lifts Linnell's chin, slowly leaning in close to her lips. Panicking at the proximity, she hurriedly pushes him away, instantly pulling back at absolute lightning speed to create some safe distance between them. Kai merely flashes a smug smile and asks, "Do you understand now? This is exactly what I want." Linnell looks at Kai with fearful, wide eyes. He is even weaponizing the fact that he's helping her keep her gender secret as a condition to low-key threaten her. He smoothly winks at Linnell, places his finger on his lips, and playfully suggests, like a kiss, for example. Linnell blushes furiously as she looks at the gorgeous white wolf Kai masquerading in human clothing. Even though this guy has saved her a lot, the mere idea of actually kissing Kai still feels a bit too spicy to handle. Totally flustered, Linnell doesn't even know what to say, so Kai smiles warmly and asks, "This is the very first time you've ever made a life-and-death request, isn't it?" Linnell is being completely spun around like a helpless toy by Kai. He says with playfully squinted eyes, "If you can't even handle a small price like this, it's really not fair to me." Linnell's face turns a bright crimson red. She is so incredibly embarrassed that she has nowhere left to hide. Kai drives the guilt trip even further, letting out an intentional, dramatic sigh. "Up until now, I've always been the one unconditionally satisfying your requests." Linnell is completely stunned into silence. She undergoes a long, agonizing psychological struggle inside her mind. Finally, mustering up every single ounce of her remaining courage, she boldly offers her counterterms. "At the next Grand Academy banquet, I will agree to dance with you. Will that suffice?" She is being absolutely dead serious here. Kai internally thinks, "Oh ho, looks like I finally baited the little rabbit." Linnell timidly observes Kai's unreadable expression. He grimly confirms, "Do you swear to promise me that?" In his heart, he's totally smirking, but on the outside, he still acts like he's the one taking a massive loss on the deal. He states, "Fine, I'll let you off the hook this time." Hearing the saving grace, Linnell's eyes instantly light up with joy. "Thank goodness," Kai asks Linnell. "What exactly do you need my magic for?" Linnell urgently replies, "I desperately need to go home right now." Kai thought it was going to be some massive world-ending crisis. Linnell is about to accidentally blurt out the whole truth, but she hits the brakes just in the nick of time. The fact that the terrifying crown prince is currently lounging at her family house is something she absolutely shouldn't let Kai find out. It's much better that way. If those two overpowered rival males ever end up clashing in the exact same place, a literal nuclear bomb might actually detonate. In the end, she wisely hides the detail that Dylan is currently invading her house. Kai chuckles. "Oh wow, alright then, I'll send you back personally." Immediately after that, a massive teleportation magic circle violently opens up. Kai stands outside, casting the complex spell, and gives her a quick warning not to dare step out of the circle. She lets out a sigh of relief. Everything is sorted out. Linnell looks at him intensely, focusing his brilliant mind and calmly chanting the ancient spell. She silently feels that Kai is actually right. For the longest time, she has always been the one selfishly receiving major benefits without giving anything back in return. Thinking about Kai's teasing request, her face suddenly darkens with guilt. Am I really that awful of a person? If things keep going down this path, there will definitely come a day when Kai no longer finds her amusing. And at that critical point, Linnell's true identity will be violently exposed. After a fierce mental struggle, Linnell makes up her mind. Time to just go all in. She calls out to Kai, who is hyper-focused on reading the spell and hasn't yet realized what's happening when Linnell abruptly steps forward, aggressively grabs his silk tie, and plants a bold kiss straight on Kai's cheek, a sweet, soft peck on the cheek. Kai cannot believe what is happening to him. A completely flustered Linnell gradually vanishes inside the glowing magic circle, her face still completely flushed red. Kai gently touches his cheek, unable to believe that his first kiss was just stolen by this sneaky girl. On the other side, at the Liam family territory, the teleportation circle smoothly arrives at its destination. The exact moment her feet touch the cold ground, Linnell blushes and holds her burning cheeks, feeling absolutely shameless for proactively kissing him before even being married. Even though it was just a quick peck on the cheek, it was still officially Linnell's first kiss. The more she thinks about it, the faster her heart violently races. She desperately tries to hypnotize herself that this was merely a harmless thank you gift. Good grief, the wooden door is suddenly thrown open, giving her a massive fright. Linnell might actually need some serious heart medication at this rate. Liam screams in absolute surprise. "Sister, you're finally back!" She is scared out of her wits, completely unsure how Liam knew to come to this exact private room to find her. Liam hurriedly steps toward a panicked Linnell, explaining as he walks. "I felt a massive, powerful surge of magic power vibrating here, but right now is absolutely not the time to explain the details of this matter." He reaches his hand out, and Linnell's short hair instantly grows back to its beautiful, long length. Liam urgently declares, "Sister, quickly get changed and ready. A major, apocalyptic crisis is about to happen to our family. Right now, father and mother are desperately trying to find any ways to stall the dangerous crown prince downstairs." Liam throws his dear older sister straight into the hands of the waiting maids. They excitedly crowd around to welcome her back, and immediately get ready to do her heavy makeup. Linnell can only break into a terrified cold sweat, praying her chaotic family shows some mercy. Once everything is fully arranged, Liam finally lets out a massive sigh of relief. Her parents also immediately come running to look for their daughter. Her father has a look of sheer, jaw-dropping disbelief on his face as a stunningly beautiful Linnell appears before everyone. Linnell's mother excitedly asks, "Daughter, why did the handsome crown prince personally come all this way to look for you? Since when did the relationship between you two get this incredibly good?" Meanwhile, her father narrows his suspicious eyes and deeply frowns, questioning, "You didn't do something illegal or bad at the academy, did you? Don't tell me you actually dared to be wildly disrespectful to His Highness the Crown Prince." Linnell wants to speak up and explain everything, but on second thought, it seems her anxious father isn't exactly wrong. Her mother aggressively pushes her meddling husband aside, seemingly quite liking this powerful crown prince as a potential suitor. In her biased eyes, he is a highly outstanding, perfect man. Seeing this pure fangirling behavior from the Countess, the anxious father-son duo silently feels like they are completely doomed. Her mother even openly hopes that Dylan and Linnell can start dating. These reckless words leave Count Liam extremely displeased and stressed. Linnell already has an official engagement with the powerful Zicki family, and besides, His Highness Dylan already has his own crazy fiancé too. The stubborn Countess still hasn't given up on the ambitious idea at all. She steps forward and directly asks her daughter, "Out of the two, which one do you actually like more, Zicki or His Highness Dylan?" Looking at her mother acting like a complete fangirl, Linnell can only let out a defeated, helpless laugh. Suddenly, Linnell switches to a dead serious tone and says, "His Highness Dylan and I are absolutely not in that kind of romantic relationship." She is still a bit puzzled as to why Dylan personally came here hunting for her instead of tracking down Liam. She suddenly recalls the raw, emotional words Dylan muttered when he was completely dazed back then. "I missed you so much." Linnell sinks incredibly deep into her own thoughts. Could his bizarre fixation on her have started right after that grand ball? While Linnell is utterly lost in thought, Liam sharply speaks up to remind her. "His Highness Dylan is still waiting impatiently outside. Aren't you guys in a massive hurry?" Linnell turns on her heel and quickly rushes off. He explicitly swore he wouldn't leave until he met her face to face. While walking down the corridor, Linnell feels incredibly anxious, completely unsure what toxic or unpredictable stunt Dylan actually wants to pull now. She aggressively slaps her own face to snap herself back into reality. Right now, she needs to handle this high-stakes situation with extreme caution. No matter what happens, she cannot afford to be careless. After all, she is currently acting as the elegant daughter of a prominent marquis. Over in the courtyard, Dylan is waiting restlessly in the estate's sprawling garden, entirely lost in his own chaotic thoughts. He genuinely doesn't understand why that kid Liam cried so bitterly back at the academy. He only wanted to step up and aggressively protect him from that scandal, after all. Fiddling with his delicate teacup, his heart is tied up in a massive knot. Could it be that his protective instincts were completely wrong? Dylan ultimately came here to find Linnell because he firmly assumes they are identical twins, meaning Lady Linnell must know the psychological reason why her younger brother broke down. Dylan feels that using this familial excuse to come meet Lady Linnell is completely undeniably logical. Thinking about that beautiful girl, the dominant crown prince's face suddenly turns a bright crimson red. The gentle sound of the afternoon wind rustles through the lush green leaves. Hearing quiet footsteps approaching from behind him, Dylan swiftly turns around to look. The stunning girl he has been secretly longing for, but would never dare admit Linnell, is standing right in front of him. The young lady politely and softly greets him. "I have kept you waiting for far too long, Your Royal Highness." Dylan immediately stands up and walks toward Linnell, his flawless face clearly flushing red with embarrassment. Linnell cuts straight to the chase, demanding to know what his true reason for invading her home today is. But Dylan doesn't utter a single word of explanation. He steps directly into Linnell's personal space, softly murmuring, "You are so beautiful." Linnell doesn't understand what the hell is wrong with this guy, but she can clearly see her own stunned reflection in his intense eyes. His mouth continuously drops poetic, breathtaking compliments. "You are beautiful, just like a literal goddess." This sudden, intense compliment catches Linnell completely off guard, making her blush furiously on the spot. Utterly flustered, she dares not lock eyes with Dylan for another second. Linnell instinctively turns her face away in a panic and says, "Please stop aggressively flirting with me. These reckless words will easily cause others to misunderstand our dynamic." Dylan acts like a man completely smitten and brings down his defenses, placing his trembling hand over his heart to vow, "I only ever say these words to you, my lady." Linnell is completely flustered and anxious, showing a bit of a young maiden's classic hesitation. Inside the stone gazebo, the romantic atmosphere now holds nothing but the gentle breeze blowing in soft waves, cherry blossoms falling petal by petal, and the rhythmic, racing heartbeats of the young man and woman. The tea table and luxury noble suites are prepared with extreme high-class sophistication. The gorgeous pair just sits there like that, intensely staring at each other without saying a single, solitary word. In Linnell's chaotic mind, the heavy words just spoken by His Highness the Crown Prince keep echoing on a loop. She honestly doesn't know what hidden agenda he means by saying something so forward. Linnell desperately consoles herself that perhaps those are just smooth lines Dylan rehearses for every single girl he finds attractive. She absolutely must not fall for his trap or believe him. Dylan contemplates in silence for a while. After a long, agonizing pause, he lifts his porcelain teacup and takes a slow sip to calm his racing nerves, then finally speaks up. Although he stammers a bit, completely unlike his usual arrogant self, he manages to spit out a complete sentence. "The weather is really beautiful today, isn't it?" Linnell is a bit surprised by the awkward small talk but follows along, softly replying, "Yes, Dylan." Clumsily continues with the classic, old-school flirting script typically used by ancient elders, asking, "So, what did you do today?" Linnell elegantly takes a slow sip of her premium tea and coldly says, "I am afraid that is my strictly private matter." Immediately after that icy, blunt response, the entire atmosphere becomes incredibly, suffocatingly awkward. Dylan politely apologizes first, guessing that his unannounced, aggressive visit is what made Linnell so angry. But Linnell bluntly and smoothly denies his assumption. The Straight Male of the Year award clearly goes to Dylan. He has absolutely no idea what he did wrong, so he has to ask directly. "Did I do something specific to make you angry with me?" Linnell narrows her sharp eyes in deep, calculated thought, her expression completely calm without a single ripple of emotion. She tightly clenches both her hands and says, "We both already have official engagements. Meeting privately like this doesn't seem very appropriate at all." Sure enough, two people who already have high-profile marriage partners meeting in a private, secret rose garden like this could easily become a massive target for everyone's vicious criticism. Dylan is extremely surprised upon hearing that logical reason. Of course, Linnell isn't actually angry at him for that societal taboo. She's just desperately finding a random excuse so she won't have to interact closely with the dangerous crown prince. Her hidden hands clench. even tighter into fists, wondering why this dense straight guy keeps throwing himself at her feet. Dylan aggressively scratches his head in pure frustration, letting his bottled-up emotions suddenly burst out. He genuinely can't comprehend what on earth both Liam and Linnell are internally thinking about him. He completely loses his temper, tossing his regular regal image completely aside to aggressively question why both siblings are so damn angry with him. This bratty, defensive reaction from Dylan instantly infuriates Linnell. She dangerously lowers her voice and fires back. "Dylan, you honestly don't know?" She coldly repeats the question once more. "Do you really, truly not know?" Seeing Dylan's completely clueless, blank look, Linnell seriously says, "Did you seriously think I didn't know about you mercilessly bullying and terrorizing Liam in front of the entire academy?" Upon hearing these accusatory words, Dylan violently jolts back in sheer surprise. Instant, undeniable guilt is written all over the proud crown prince's face. He foolishly assumed that all of this was buried deep in the past. Talk about driving someone completely insane. Linnell interrogates him even further, refusing to let him off the hook. The otherwise unyielding crown prince submissively opens up, completely lowering his guard. He confesses that the very first time he laid eyes on Liam, he found him incredibly annoying and instinctively wanted to bully him. Dylan desperately tries to explain that their dynamic has completely evolved lately, but Linnell doesn't want to hear his excuses and directly cuts him off. "Just because you found him annoying, you ruthlessly targeted him. Do you have any idea how deeply traumatized Liam was?" Dylan is completely speechless. He honestly didn't comprehend the psychological severity of his toxic actions at all. He was merely throwing around his absolute royal authority. Even so, Linnell remains absolutely furious at Dylan's cluelessness. In her tragic past life, even though he was utterly miserable, Liam always endured the ruthless bullying alone because he didn't want his family to worry. By the time Linnell finally discovered the horrific truth, it was already far too late to save him. But then again, the tyrant Dylan of her past life and the complicated one standing in this life are two entirely different people, aren't they? Lionel is slightly absent-minded while recalling her grim past when suddenly, a soft, genuine apology echoes right by her ear. She looks up at Dylan in a state of absolute jaw-dropping surprise. He avoids her gaze, keeping his arrogant head deeply lowered. An almighty crown prince, positioned above all but one, is now genuinely repenting. He tightly clenches his fists, tremblingly admitting, "All of this toxic behavior stemmed from my own pathetic weakness. I know it's far too late to apologize now, Liam." Dylan viciously gnashes his teeth as his immense royal pride and suffocating remorse violently clash with each other. He reveals that the first time he met Liam, seeing that specific pink hair and piercing blue eyes, he was instantly reminded of a ghost from his past. It traced back to a period of his absolute happiest childhood memories. But at the exact same time, it triggered a terrifying royal taboo, a horrific nightmare, deeply engraved in the traumatized mind of a young boy who first learned what a gruesome, bloody death looked like. The vivid image of that elegant woman violently collapsing, staring directly at him with eyes full of cold death and unadulterated resentment. It completely haunted every single shred of his fractured soul. So when he initially saw Liam, it felt as if that horrific scene was repeating right before his eyes. That uncontrollable resentment and primal fear made Dylan deeply frustrated, so his toxicity took it out on Liam. Because the heavy atmosphere in the gazebo is far too suffocating, they decide to change locations. Lionel and Dylan step outside for a quiet walk. After delivering his heavy apology, Dylan remains completely silent. Lionel honestly didn't expect the proud crown prince to swallow his pride so easily. Everything was originally caused by his own hands. But why did Dylan look so utterly miserable and broken just now? Is she accidentally pushing things in the completely wrong direction? Because she is buried too deep in her own thoughts, Linnell accidentally loses her footing and slips. No matter how flawlessly skilled she is at wielding a sword, trapped in this heavy dress and these ridiculous high heels, she can only prepare to faceplant brutally into the ground. Seeing the impending disaster, Dylan swiftly reaches out his strong arms to catch her. As a direct result, Linnell is held tightly in the prince's protective embrace. But this cliché shoujo romance plot point feels a bit wrong to her. Realizing the physical distance between them is way too close. Linnell flusteredly stammers, "Thank you," and desperately tries to push Dylan away. Who would have thought Dylan would only tighten his grip, holding her even closer to his chest? Linnell urgently protests, "Your Royal Highness, Dylan, I'm perfectly fine and balanced now. Could you please let me go?" But Dylan has absolutely zero intention of letting her escape. He softly begs Linnell to just let him hold her for a tiny moment longer. Lionel, obviously, and firmly disagrees. It wouldn't be good at all if the estate servants or her family saw them like this. But surprisingly, Dylan acts like a man possessed, whispering that letting them misunderstand their relationship is even better. Amidst the breathtaking garden of glowing blue daffodils, this powerful alpha man and beautiful lady truly look like a picture-perfect match. The dominant crown prince reaches his hand out, gently caressing Linnell's soft face. His intense eyes are filled with absolute, unyielding sincerity as he clearly declares, "I like you." Each romantic word is as breathtakingly gentle as the blue daffodils swaying in the afternoon wind. They just hold each other like that, completely frozen in the middle of the vibrant daffodil field. The girl being trapped in his tight embrace, Linnell asks back in utter shock. "You actually like me?" Dylan confesses with immense difficulty. "Ever since the very first time I met you at the ball, I've been hopelessly in love with you." Her sharp logic and traumatic memories instantly come knocking back. Linnell vividly remembers the actual first time they crossed paths. She literally injured His Royal Highness the Crown Prince with a weapon. But this kind of twisted romance is absolutely, fundamentally impossible. She forcefully dodges out of Dylan's embrace. "Please stop playing jokes on me, Your Highness." Hearing this rejection, Dylan quickly explains, "It's not a joke. I'm completely sincere." Lionel loudly reminds him, "But I already have an official fiancé. Furthermore, Your Highness the Crown Prince also already has." Even so, before she can even finish her desperate sentence, Dylan sharply cuts her off. "Since that fateful day, I've been completely smitten by you." He sincerely places his hand over his pounding heart. "No matter what I do, your face constantly haunts my mind." Hearing those heavy words, an indescribable wave of emotion wells up in Lionel's chest, making her heart flutter. But she still hasn't forgotten what Celia bragged about, that Dylan truly loved her as a fiancé and would constantly display his toxic affection. In the end, logic wins. She's certain Dylan must have whispered these exact words to other girls too. She absolutely must not fall for his traps. Linnell bites her lip and lowers her face, both to avoid Dylan's intense gaze and to regain her composure. She coldly says, "It must be because Your Highness has never met an unyielding person like me before, so you're just misunderstanding temporary infatuation." Dylan immediately objects. "It's absolutely not like that." Lionel still tries her absolute best to avoid his piercing gaze. Seeing her resistance, he firmly places his hands on Linnell's shoulders, so she is forced to look straight into his face and declares, "I'm being completely sincere here. This is the first time in my life I've ever pined for someone." These raw words make Linnell's heart beat erratically, and her emotional willpower begins to severely waver. Meanwhile, the grim reality of this current life and her horrific past life are getting completely tangled up in her head. The agonizing question keeps repeating on a loop in her mind. Why did he order the brutal execution of the fiancé he supposedly cherished? Why did he ruthlessly slaughter my entire beloved family? Lionel violently turns her face away, and with eyes full of deep hurt and suspicion, she demands, "Then when you inevitably lose interest in me, will you sentence me to death just like Lady Celia?" Dylan's expression instantly shifts from utter surprise to completely darkening into a shadow. Without waiting for Dylan to give her an answer, Linnell turns on her heel and hurriedly runs away. She hadn't originally intended to speak those venomous words to the prince, but she firmly feels that a tyrant who could order the immediate execution of the fiancé he once loved would easily do the exact same to her. She frantically runs past the stone gazebo, past the grand buildings of the estate, just keeping her legs moving without a single destination in mind. Her path is entirely aimless, just like Linnell's fractured mind right now, and she automatically knows that in all of this, she herself is the most hypocritical one. Unknowingly, Linnell has come to blindly believe that no matter how disrespectful she acts, Dylan will always tolerate her tantrums. Completely conflicted, Linnell clutches her throbbing head. Clearly, she used to hate this ruthless guy with every fiber of her being, yet right now she is subconsciously willing to trust him. Gripping her hair to force herself to stay alert, Linnell continuously tells herself that she absolutely must not forget Dylan is the exact monster who executed everyone she loved. She absolutely must not risk trusting him, that blood-hearted person who executed countless others without a single shred of mercy. Right at this critical moment, Dylan also catches up with lightning speed. He firmly grabs Linnell's wrist, desperately wanting her to listen to his side. Lionel is feeling incredibly awkward and cornered. His strong hand is firmly grasping her, refusing to let go. He loudly demands that she stop running away from him like a criminal. She is extremely flustered, not knowing how to choose right now. She begs the intimidating crown prince to release his grip on her hand and let her go. Stubbornly clinging to his very first love, Dylan firmly states that he will never sentence Linnell to death under any circumstances. Hearing that massive vow, Linnell instantly stops resisting his grip. She slowly turns around to observe his facial expression and judge the absolute sincerity of that dangerous statement. Up until this point, she still fundamentally doesn't understand him. She demands a clear, honest answer, asking why he can talk so casually about everything, including taking someone's life, and no matter how passionate he acts now, he will just discard her when he gets bored. But the very next thing he says catches her completely off guard. He places Linnell's small hand directly over his own beating heart, declaring, "Even if that's the case, you cannot deny my true feelings right now." The Crown Prince's raw, unshielded feelings in this life are being heard loud and clear by Linnell, but Linnell simply doesn't answer Dylan, because she herself doesn't even know what her own current, chaotic emotions are trying to tell her. She lowers her blushing face, not wanting to face the Crown Prince's overwhelming gaze. Her nagging logic reminds her once again that no matter how passionately and earnestly Dylan claims he loves her, the horrific fact that he was the monster who took the lives of her family remains a reality. Linnell bites her lip and makes up her mind. She absolutely must not trust this man. After gathering all her courage, Linnell looks back up at Dylan. His gaze is filled with so many conflicting things, both deep affection and a profound sadness, acting like a numbing agent to her heart's raw nerves. Her little heart, which had just regained its strict determination, is violently shaken once again. Looking into those sincere eyes, Linnell gets the uncanny feeling that this version of him doesn't seem the same as the killer from the previous timeline. Dylan still holds Linnell's hand tightly without letting go. He lets out a defeated sigh and says, "I don't require you to give me an answer right at this moment. I only want to express my bare heart to you." He is either patiently waiting for Lionel's eventual answer, or perhaps he doesn't dare to hear her inevitable rejection. Before meeting Linnell, even though he was the supreme crown prince, living in a luxurious palace, he was fundamentally a lonely child who was never truly loved by anyone. He always cynically assumed that he would never be capable of giving this special kind of affection to anyone else. But his entire world completely flipped when this chaotic, special girl appeared in his life. That's precisely why he wants to desperately cherish this newfound feeling. Right at that tense moment, not very far away from the young couple, Liam is secretly watching from the bushes, gasping in utter shock as his heart beats like a frantic festival drum. He never in a million years expected his older sister and the terrifying crown prince to have that kind of spicy relationship. But looking closely at the current situation, it seems Linnell is not doing very well and looks completely overwhelmed. Always quick-witted, Liam immediately concocts a clever way to bail his sister out. He lets out a loud, intentional cough, then loudly calls out to the empty space, pretending to search. "Sister, are you over there anywhere?" Hearing Liam's saving call, Linnell politely asks the prince to return to the grand hall. The disappointed crown prince can only stare back at her in silence, only to be met with her acting incredibly, formally polite, bowing as she whispers, "I am so sorry," and then immediately turning on her heel to escape. Watching Liam walk up, Dylan feels a sudden spike of suspicion. That young man's robust physique doesn't look like the fragile friend named Liam he knows back at the academy. Plus, that deep voice was a bit too masculine. Late that night, deep inside the private bedroom, Liam curiously interrogates Linnell about her secret relationship with His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. After listening to Linnell reluctantly spill the entire story, Liam flashes a teasing, playful smile, joking that they look exactly like star-crossed lovers in a romance novel. Before this, he used to think the Crown Prince was an unstoppable monster, but now he realizes he's actually a hopelessly passionate person. Linnell sinks into a dark, suffocating thought process again without uttering a single word. Seeing his older sister looking so gloomy, Liam playfully jokes that Linnell and Dylan actually look like a perfect power couple when standing side by side. Unexpectedly, upon hearing these teasing words, Linnell fiercely screams, "Don't you dare joke like that!" She feels those mocking words aren't funny in the slightest. Even though she logically knows Liam means zero harm, her fragile maiden heart right now is a tangled, chaotic mess of pure anxiety. Liam is left completely blindsided by this bizarre, explosive reaction from his sister. Carelessly, he curiously asks why she rejected a literal royal like His Highness Dylan so brutally. He feels his sister has been acting incredibly strange lately. Even if it meant risking everything to cross-dress as a guy, she still stubbornly insisted on infiltrating the academy, no matter the cost. Could it be that she's harboring a massive secret from him? Hearing Liam voice this, Linnell looks up to face her brother's sharp, scrutinizing gaze. Liam gently places his warm hand over Linnell's trembling hand to comfort her. Don't hide anything from me anymore, sister. No matter how horrific it is, you have to tell me. We are twins, after all. Lina looks at Liam with tear-filled eyes. The one person who shares the exact same face and bloodline as her. She honestly doesn't know how Liam will react when he hears about the gruesome events of the previous timeline, looking at her younger brother, who is so fiercely certain that no matter what apocalyptic event happens, he will always stand by her side. Her emotional wall wavers, desperately wanting to confide in him. After a few agonizing seconds of a brutal internal struggle, Linnell finally decides to confess. She completely bursts into a bitter, heartbreaking sob, burying her head against her brother's firm, reassuring shoulder, letting out all the tears, suffocating emotions, and pent-up secrets. Late at night is precisely the time when dark secrets are finally unveiled through deep, emotional conversations. In the end, a weeping Linnell tells Liam absolutely everything without hiding a single detail, including the impossible, mind-bending fact that this is currently her second life. In her tragic past life, the Crown Prince was the cold executioner who sentenced her entire family to death, and also reveals the fact that she reincarnated with the sole purpose of doing everything in her power to rewrite fate and save her family from slaughter. Even though the crazy story sounds completely absurd and unbelievable, Liam still listens with extreme, dead serious intensity. Liam rubs his chin in deep thought, organizing the timeline data for a long while. He then boldly and confidently puts forward a brilliant guess. Are you absolutely certain the one who actually orchestrated that tragedy was Crown Prince Dylan's sister? Linnell is left a bit confused and dumbfounded upon hearing this unexpected question from her brother. She doesn't comprehend what Liam is implying. Liam calmly continues with his own logical analysis. From what he can observe, Crown Prince Dylan is a blunt, straightforward hothead who isn't skilled at hiding his true emotions. Even if he was the political puppet who directly bellowed the execution order in her past life, Liam feels this kind of complex conspiracy isn't something a straight shooter like him could plan so meticulously and flawlessly. Linnell also begins to seriously doubt her own memories. Her brother's sharp deduction actually makes an incredible amount of sense. There absolutely must have been a shadowy mastermind pulling the strings from behind the curtains to manipulate Dylan into sentencing their entire family to the scaffold. Liam nods firmly, confirming his own solid hypothesis. Linnell is completely speechless, not knowing what to say right now. Liam continues his brilliant detective work. According to Linnell's story, when their family was executed, she and Zicky had already broken off their high-profile engagement. Coincidentally, the entire horrific execution took place while he was deployed far away on a military expedition. This is truly an immense, highly suspicious coincidence. If Zicky had physically been present in the capital back then, he would have definitely deployed every resource possible to prevent that tragedy from ever happening. Lionel carefully reflects on the heavy words Liam just dropped. When she first woke up in this timeline, she was far too terrified and panicked. She always blindly assumed the prince was a brutal tyrant and hated him blindly, meaning she couldn't think things through rationally. Thinking about the political chessboard from a more normal and highly logical angle, it should actually be like this. The Nozocalis family and the Quagoman family are the two most powerful, ridiculously wealthy, noble factions in the entire empire. The strategic marriage alliance between Linnell and Zicky would make the unification of these two houses incredibly formidable and unstoppable. That power move would drastically and violently disrupt the balance of power among the greedy noble factions. So, if the Nozocalis family were completely annihilated, who would be the ultimate winner to benefit from this blood-stained political chessboard? Dylan is a direct member of the imperial family. A noble marriage wouldn't threaten his position at all. Only now, under the moonlight, does Linnell finally realize the massive blind spot in her memories. Clearly, she had never forced herself to look at the execution from this perspective before. She had always blindly assumed the cruel crown prince maliciously planned to slaughter her entire family for fun. Pure, unadulterated hatred had completely blinded her logic and judgment. Liam clearly possesses a much clearer, unbiased head. Right now, Linnell feels an indescribable wave of conflicting emotion. She had hated the innocent crown prince to the absolute core, after all. The realization is so incredibly painful. After finishing his flawless analysis, Liam places his strong hands on his sister's shoulders. I'm so sorry for letting you shoulder the weight of the universe all alone before. From today onward, I will fight by your side. The boy has officially grown up now, knowing how to deeply thank his sister for sacrificing her life for him. Just hearing those comforting words, Linnell can't hold back her raw emotions, softly agreeing through her choked tears. A few bright days later, over in the bustling capital district, a luxurious high-end noble carriage is speeding down the stone road. That is the official carriage carrying the stunning Linnell and Zicky. The two of them have a mandatory social banquet they need to attend, which is precisely why he came to personally escort his beautiful fiancée. Sitting in the plush carriage, the young, celebrated hero of the nation is constantly fighting a losing internal battle. His mind is screaming, marveling at Linnell's breathtaking beauty. She truly looks so ethereal and perfect whenever she wears these gorgeous, body-hugging formal dresses. Plus, that mysterious, melancholy aura emanating from her out of nowhere is also absolutely intoxicating to him. He fiercely feels that he doesn't want to share this masterpiece of a woman with any other living man at all. The more Zicky thinks about it, the more his dark possessiveness flares up. Linnell, sitting quietly beside him, only notices Zicky's sudden silence and pays close attention to him. He hasn't uttered a single word, while his handsome eyebrows are tightly knit together in a tense scowl. She nervously guesses that Zicky's mood today seems to be a bit dangerous. Little does she actually know just how twisted and completely obsessed inside her fierce fiancé actually is. Linnell looks up at Zicky with a bit of trepidation, wondering what she did wrong to make him this angry already. The grand carriage smooths to a stop in front of the towering gates of the Klasa estate. The elite noble lords and ladies are all gathering at the entrance, buzzing with intense excitement. They never expected the legendary war hero Lord Quagamon to actually show up today. The exceptionally talented man and breathtakingly beautiful woman duo instantly attracts quite a lot of everyone's obsessive attention. As for the two who just walked in, they immediately catch sight of the adoring ladies swooning over the elite F4 group. There is still Omen, oozing his usual playful pride and charm. Bacha calmly radiates his elegant wisdom. Kai is as chillingly aloof as thousand-year-old ice. And the Crown Prince commands an aura of being completely above all but one. In stark contrast to their grandeur, Linnell only wants to find a way to slip away as fast as humanly possible. She still doesn't possess the courage to face the prince. Furthermore, she had previously locked herself into a deal to dance with Kai at the next banquet. Kai has already spotted Linnell from across the room. He slowly curls his lips into a knowing smile at her. Even though it's technically a friendly smile, Linnell feels a terrifying chill run straight down her spine. What should she do now? What on earth is she supposed to do when her overprotective fiancé and her persistent pursuers violently cross paths? Glancing over at Zicky, it seems her fierce fiancé isn't looking very pleased with the situation either. On top of all that drama, Dylan is also physically present here. A horrible premonition instantly flashes through Linnell's anxious mind. This high society banquet is already proving to be no less chaotic and overwhelmingly bustling. She subtly glances around to assess her luxurious surroundings. It truly lives up to the grand reputation of a duke's household. Then she cautiously steals another glance at her tense fiancé. He looks heavily sullen, his entire body completely radiating a dark, murderous aura. As she expected, he's clearly deeply unhappy about accompanying her to this annoying party. Despite being a highly celebrated war hero, Zicky rarely ever deigns to participate in tedious social gatherings. This time he only dragged himself here because he knew Linnell would be attending. While Linnell is confusedly looking around the ballroom, Kai appears out of thin air right before her. He politely places his hand over his chest to smooth talk. "Good evening, Lady Linnell," and then takes her hand as high society custom dictates, leaning down to plant a soft kiss on it. Linnell is a bit flustered by his forward action, but still politely greets him and thanks him for inviting her to attend this grand party. Suddenly, a towering figure, clad in deep green, manifests, aggressively blocking the space between her and Kai. Zicky, looking none too pleased by the flirting, possessively pulls Linnell back behind his own broad shoulders. Zicky's sharp gaze is incredibly complex and dangerous as he glares daggers at Kai. Kai doesn't show even a single sign of annoyance at being so rudely interrupted. He merely flashes a somewhat surprised, smug smile, tossing a polite remark to Zicky. "I'm quite surprised that you deigned to attend a party as well." Linnell feels like an absolute world war is about to break out on the floor. This time, Zicky sharply speaks up as if to loudly claim his rightful ownership. "I only came here for my fiancé." Kai doesn't back down for a second, sarcastically firing back. "Didn't you used to strictly avoid attending any parties before?" Kai keeps that fake smile pasted on his face, but his venomous words carry absolutely no hint of actual laughter. The suffocating atmosphere between the two alphas becomes intensely strained. Finally losing his patience, Ziki abruptly turns around and drags Linnell outside, leaving a silent Kai standing there watching them walk away. Stepping out onto the cold, quiet balcony, his protective mind right now is entirely consumed with vivid images of Linnell. Ziki is deeply unhappy that the sleazy men at the party keep gluing their lustful eyes directly onto her, all because of his gorgeous fiancé's naturally unhideable, radiant charm. Ziki also can't quite figure out the overly familiar attitude Kai just displayed toward Linnell. Seeing Ziki drag her out here only to remain completely silent, Linnell proactively speaks up. The party has only just begun. Why on earth did we come out here? He doesn't reply to her right away, but takes a deep, ragged breath and lets out a heavy sigh. Immediately after that, he bluntly states, "Let's just stay hidden right here today. This specific spot is quite safe from prying eyes. A beautiful Lionel won't appear in the line of sight of any random, thirsty guys." Linnell still doesn't understand the real issue, but Ziki desperately wants to keep Linnell all to himself. So he speaks with absolute honesty. "I don't want any other man looking at you." This completely unexpected, possessive answer leaves Linnell thoroughly flustered. Ziki abruptly turns his blushing face away, not daring to look directly into Linnell's wide, stunning eyes. She suddenly gets incredibly worked up, her self-esteem completely shattered, because the naive mind of this young girl makes her wildly assume the other party is hiding her here because he finds her too ugly to be seen with. Linnell angrily clenches her small fists in pure frustration, glaring fiercely as her inner porcupine prepares to bristle. She shouts at a stunned Ziki, "If you don't want to dance with me that badly, then I'll just go dance with Lord Kai instead." The straight male war hero is officially left completely clueless and blindsided by her logic. Ziki anxiously asks, "Why are you suddenly bringing up Kai at a time like this?" Linnell doesn't even bother to look at him anymore, instantly turning around to head straight back to the party. She firmly feels that perhaps Ziki is miserable about having to be her dance partner, but seeing Linnell genuinely wanting to leave his side, Ziki quickly steps forward, grabs her hand to pull her back, and desperately explains, "It's absolutely not what you think." She turns her head back around to see exactly how this dense guy is going to explain himself. Yet he sincerely blushes crimson and confesses, "If it's not you, then the act of dancing holds absolutely no meaning to me." The dramatic emotional shifts in these powerful men are happening way too fast, leaving a bewildered Linnell completely unable to keep up. That raw, sincere statement keeps echoing on a loop in Linnell's mind. He seriously musters up all his remaining courage to explain, "Your breathtakingly beautiful appearance makes me desperately not want to let anyone else look at you." Linnell experiences an official, total mental reset. It's incredibly rare for this kind of vulnerable, shy expression to appear on his usually cold face, causing her heart to flutter in a chaotic, wild rhythm. Ziki is being incredibly, dead serious, wanting to prove the depth of his true feelings for her. Realizing her angry behavior towards Ziki just now wasn't very nice or fair, Linnell proactively speaks up to apologize. That adorable expression feels like 10,000 arrows piercing straight through Ziki's defenseless heart. Afterward, she excitedly drags her frozen fiancé right back into the buzzing party. "Since we came all the way here together anyway, let's just dance together." Linnell joyfully flashes a radiant smile, formally inviting Ziki to the dance floor. With this single, dazzling move, our legendary war hero is officially down bad for her. Their sudden return instantly turns the entire dance floor into a special spectacle. It has successfully captured the undivided attention of practically everyone in the room. High society is openly praising how adorable the power couple looks, completely unable to hide their smirks while watching them glide. Linnell happily surrenders to the rhythm of the music with Ziki, silently marveling that for a guy who only knew how to swing a sword, he surprisingly dances like an absolute pro. Ziki notices her stare, but immediately crashes back to reality when the ultimate straight male bluntly kills the vibe. "Your hands have gotten quite rough from wielding a blade. Make sure to properly moisturize them." Naturally, this comment completely triggers Linnell, causing her to complain, You sound exactly like my dad." Ziki can only offer a helpless, deeply affectionate gaze in return. Her rhythmic movements are also nothing short of absolutely flawless. The undeniable chemistry between the two is incredibly relaxed, causing countless jealous young noblemen at the party to lock their eyes onto Linnell. Ziki internally grumbles that they should have just stayed hidden away on the balcony, but he realizes it's impossible to drag her back there now since she looks so genuinely happy. Among the elite crowd monitoring them is His Highness Crown Prince Dylan, who makes absolutely no effort to hide his intense, piercing gaze locked onto Linnell. In his mind, he is even vividly daydreaming about the two of them dominating the dance floor together, with her flashing that exact radiant smile at him. But in reality, that's a total pipe dream. That is nothing more than a wild, desperate illusion he is conjuring up. As an incredibly prominent figure occupying the literal top of the Empire's social hierarchy, every single move he makes draws the immediate obsession of the young ladies at the banquet. The noble girls are aggressively whispering tea into each other's ears about the shocking rumor that Dylan personally visited the Nausicaalis estate to pursue Linnell the second the academy break started. Kai accidentally catches every word of their scandalous gossip. He glares toward the couple who are currently dancing so happily together, while his brilliant mind starts piecing together the true implications of Dylan invading the Nausicaalis household. Coupling that with the Crown Prince's completely unhidden gaze, he instantly recalls Linnell's desperate, frantic magic requests right before fleeing the academy. Kai's signature smirk instantly vanishes, and he begins taking massive, menacing strides directly toward Linnell. Right on cue, the elegant orchestral music finally fades to a stop. Linnell is feeling on cloud nine because, after all, this is her official debut dance, and with Zicky leading her, everything felt super fun and natural. Suddenly, a chilling voice slices through the air. "Lady Linnell," causing her to instantly freeze in her tracks. Zicky immediately activates his full defensive mode, glaring daggers at the intruder. Kai, radiating a dark and heavy aura, steps right into their personal space. Linnell instantly notices his emotional stability is looking a bit unhinged. Kai still forces a polite smile, but it is clearly 70% unadulterated fury and 30% intense obsession as he demands, "Will the young lady honor me with the next song?" Zicky sharply speaks up, fully prepared to assert his dominant status as her fiancé, and aggressively steps forward to shield her. Linnell, however, instantly senses that an apocalyptic disaster is about to detonate right here. In this volatile situation, she cannot possibly take Kai's hand. Someone is literally going to end up dead. But Kai's forceful invitation is already laid out right before her, along with the terrifyingly sharp expression on his face. Zicky stands his ground to glare him down, but his physical intimidation is proving to be completely useless. Kai directly treats him like a ghost, walking right past him to stand in front of Linnell and snatching her hand as he suggests, "It's far too noisy in here, let's migrate somewhere more private." Before anyone in the surrounding crowd can even blink, a massive, glowing teleportation magic circle violently materializes beneath them. Even a seasoned warrior like Zicky doesn't have a fraction of a second to react. In the blink of an eye, the two have completely vanished into thin air. Left behind, Zicky violently gnashes his teeth, losing his absolute mind as he aggressively curses Kai to hell. Meanwhile, outside, a hidden flower garden is glowing ethereal blue under the pristine moonlight. The high-tier teleportation array smoothly finishes its sequence, right in the center of the clearing. Completely flustered, Linnell frantically demands, "Why on earth did you bring us here?" Kai calmly counterattacks, "It is officially time for you to fulfill your end of our promise." She loudly objects to this kind of aggressive, high-handed coercion. Kai looks down at Linnell and coldly mutters, "Abducting you like this is just a shortcut so you'll obediently dance with me without overthinking everything, isn't it?" Hit with a wave of immense guilt, Linnell merely stammers, completely at a loss for words to defend herself. Recalling the chaotic social politics of the situation, it was because Kai brazenly invited her to dance right in front of Linnell's official fiancé. In this strict kingdom, whenever a noble lady shares a dance with a man, that individual is expected to be either her future husband or her current fiancé. That is the precise reason why she desperately tried to dodge his advances back then, while Linnell is standing there feeling entirely conflicted. The rare lilies in the garden suddenly begin to glow with a brilliant luminescence. The breathtaking scene instantly steals her attention, and Linnell instinctively blurts out, "Wow, so beautiful." Swirling within Kai's intense eyes are a myriad of deeply complex, unreadable emotions. He gently murmurs, "This happens to be my absolute favorite sanctuary inside this castle, and it's also the sole place where I envisioned dancing with you." Immediately following his words, Kai formally extends his open hand toward a stunned Linnell. He firmly takes her hand in the absolute epicenter of this glowing garden, looking as radiantly flawless as a perfect prince stepping straight out of a classic fairy tale. The sheer level of visual perfection causes her sleeping maiden heart to violently flutter. In such a gorgeous courtyard overflowing with glowing lilies, Kai is currently holding her hand with an iron grip. They begin to seamlessly sway and dance under the intensely romantic, unfiltered moonlight. But Linnell doesn't feel a single shred of happiness. Instead, a heavy sense of chilling unease begins to shroud her mind. Ever since they materialized in this courtyard, Kai hasn't locked eyes with Linnell even a single time. Kai's execution of the dance steps is also extremely fast and aggressive, making her feel completely overwhelmed by his raw intensity. She senses that it is getting far too dangerous if they keep spinning like this, so she firmly tells Kai to stop. Kai doesn't utter a single syllable in response, just standing there, frozen in the dark silence. His current volatile mood is something Linnell can barely comprehend or keep up with. Finally, Linnell can no longer bear the suffocating tension and nervously speaks up to test the waters. "Are you, perhaps, angry with me?" Kai slowly glances over with a piercing stare and coldly asks, "You're seriously asking me if something is wrong right now?" Thoroughly flustered, she desperately protests that he isn't acting like his usual calm self today. Kai shoots a sharp glance toward Linnell before quickly averting his eyes, muttering, "I'm not angry. But there's a massive secret you're gatekeeping from me, isn't there?" That piercing gaze, heavily laced with suppressed fury, makes Linnell tremble slightly. She stands there completely bewildered, failing to grasp the real meaning behind his interrogation. Kai looks down at Linnell with an icy condescension, blindly assuming she is just playing dumb to save face. He already caught wind of the scandal that Dylan personally went to meet her during the academy break, after all. Overwhelmed with guilt and shock, Linnell stammers, How did you find out?" Kai completely ignores Linnell's question, bitterly muttering to himself, "Playing a clueless fool like me must be pretty amusing for you, right?" Catching the raw rage flaring in Kai's eyes, she feels a wave of absolute panic and frantically tries to explain herself, but he completely shuts her out, only whispering with a slow, menacing cadence, "Do you happen to remember the exact warning I gave you back then? The moment I ever get bored, I'm blowing your little secret wide open." Linnell stares at Kai in utter horror under a dark night sky illuminated by a beautiful yet ominous moon and stars. A faint, mocking smirk is still resting on his lips, but his gaze remains indescribably frozen. And right now, I'm officially bored. Extreme suffocating panic instantly wells up in her chest. Kai's threat means he is ready to expose her illegal cross-dressing identity to the entire empire. It's undeniably true that she actively kept Kai in the dark about the crown prince invading her family estate, but she honestly cannot comprehend why Kai is taking this so personally. It feels completely unhinged. Left with no choices, Kai can only let out a heavy, weary sigh. Kai's voice drops to a dangerously low register, demanding, "What exactly am I to you? Just some convenient tool to be utilized?" Hearing this heartbreaking accusation, Linnell frantically tries to find the words to explain, but Kai refuses to listen to a single syllable, convinced that all her frantic words right now are just pathetic excuses. As for Kai, he is desperately starving to know where he truly stands with Linnell. He needs to know if Linnell has even a fraction of an inkling about his real feelings. Linnell uncontrollably clutches her own arms, instinctively stepping backward in pure panic. "What on earth are you playing at? How am I supposed to decode your true feelings if you stubbornly refuse to voice them?" He glances down at Linnell's shimmering, tear-filled eyes, then sharply turns his face away, growling, "Your absolute denseness drives me insane." Initially, Kai merely maintained a playful, detached attitude toward this mysterious girl. He found the fact that a noble lady cross-dressed to infiltrate their elite academy to be highly entertaining, but by now the situation has spiraled far beyond his control. Even a genius mage like him can no longer suppress his intense feelings for Linnell. While the two of them are locked in their heated argument, Kai's sharp senses suddenly detect a hidden figure secretly monitoring them from the nearby shadows. He lowers his eyes in deep, calculated thought for a split second, then abruptly switches the subject, demanding, "Tell me, Linnell, do you only treat Dylan with such special care because he holds the title of Crown Prince?" Linnell hasn't quite caught onto the hidden trap in his question yet. Kai presses further. "Or is it because he is someone genuinely irreplaceable to your heart?" At this sudden accusation, she sharply gasps in absolute shock. Linnell looks up at Kai in total confusion. "Why are you suddenly dragging His Royal Highness into this mess?" Kai calmly fires back. "Why is it that you always prioritize Dylan above absolutely everything else?" Kai adds with a visible hint of genuine heartbreak. "The one who actually stands in the trenches helping you fulfill every impossible wish is me." Linnell is thoroughly flustered, desperately struggling to find words to defuse the situation. It turns out, from Kai's warped perspective, the two of them look like they are constantly engaging in some high-stakes, romantic, back-and-forth flirting dynamic. But that's strictly because she is trying her absolute best not to get brutally beheaded by the Tyrant Prince. However, she cannot under any circumstances let Kai know she's doing this to prevent the apocalyptic mass execution of her past life from repeating itself. Linnell is completely cornered, desperately trying to construct a flawless alibi, but she fears she won't be able to fool the incredibly sharp mage standing before her. Kai intently scrutinizes every single microscopic micro-expression shifting on Linnell's face. Finally, he speaks up to shatter the terrifying heavy silence. Could it be that you are secretly in love with the prince? The unexpected interrogation catches Linnell completely off guard, rendering her speechless. Vivid, overwhelming images of Dylan suddenly flash through her mind, one after another. That intensely sincere face that didn't harbor a single shred of deceit, along with those breathtaking, raw confessions of love. They roll through her mind like a frantic film strip. Lionel honestly doesn't understand why, but whenever the image of the crown prince invades her thoughts, her heart beats erratically in a chaotic rhythm. Kai's heavy, unyielding gaze aggressively pressures a cornered Linnell to give him a definitive answer. Pushed to her absolute limit, Linnell screams out in pure panic, "I absolutely do not like Dylan!" Linnell herself desperately wants to deny it. She cannot logically allow herself to harbor feelings for the monster who slaughtered her entire family. Her conflicting emotions instantly become completely chaotic and impossible to control, forcing her to cover her face in deep distress. Hearing Lionel's fierce denial, Kai slowly curls his lips into a smug, victorious smile. However, his very next words strike absolute terror deep into Linnell's soul. He coldly shifts his piercing gaze away from Linnell, locking eyes with a specific dark corner of the garden. "You're lurking right over there, aren't you, Dylan?" The crown prince slowly steps out from the shadows, and now this confrontation has escalated into a toxic three-way conversation to clear the air. The supreme crown prince is now standing directly in front of her, his handsome face completely expressionless and stone cold. Lionel stands there paralyzed in absolute shock, utterly unable to believe her own eyes. Why on earth is Dylan physically here right now? Dylan quickly speaks up to frantically explain his sudden presence. He actively avoids her penetrating gaze and weakly lies that he just happened to be passing by. In Dylan's fractured mind, right now, there are countless chaotic questions swirling about the secretive relationship between the girl he secretly loves and his own best friend. Why on earth did they appear here together? Since when did Kai even know Lady Linnell? Bacha suddenly speaks up, sharply cutting off the crown prince's spiraling train of thought. He directly asks Dylan, "You heard absolutely everything, didn't you? What Lady Linnell just confessed." Dylan stays stone silent without replying, as if implicitly admitting his agonizing eavesdropping. A toxic guy who loves playing unhinged pranks on others, like Kai, sees Dylan remaining completely silent, so he loses interest a bit, because this passive reaction of his is far calmer than what Kai had maliciously predicted. Suddenly, a dark thought strikes him that he should play an even bigger, more destructive prank. Dylan stands there, visibly flustered, not knowing how to react to his friend's psychological warfare. Kai unexpectedly pulls a shocked Linnell tightly into his embrace, using a highly provocative gaze to look toward Dylan as he sneers. "Then I will gladly tell Dylan an interesting story about Lady Linnell's true identity." Hearing these dangerous words, Linnell is utterly startled. But Dylan is very curious about what that game-changing secret is. This unhinged guy is totally planning to actually blow her cover. Linnell is driven into a frantic panic, quickly taking physical action. She hurriedly lunges forward to cover Kai's mouth with her hand, screaming at the top of her lungs, "Kai, shut your mouth right now!" The whole chaotic atmosphere instantly falls into a wonderfully quiet, dead silence. Lionel is absolutely terrified that in his chaotic anger, he will reveal the illegal truth about Liam's identity to Dylan, and then the entire Nozacalis family will have to face the brutal royal execution ground all over again. In this high-stakes situation, she is extremely panicked, desperately trying to construct a last-minute countermeasure. Right now, what on earth should she do? In her state of pure confusion, the only survival instinct Linnell can think of is to drag Kai as far away from the crown prince as humanly possible. Linnell uses every ounce of her strength to grab Kai's heavy wrist and pull him away from the group. She immediately dashes off into the dark, leaving behind a hasty, panicked apology to a stunned Dylan right before fleeing. Kai isn't angry in the slightest at this sudden, aggressive action of Linnell's. He merely flashes a deeply meaningful, smug smile at the pure confusion of Prince Dylan. He even weaponizes the arrogant gaze of an absolute winner to look back at Dylan. Still completely failing to understand what's going on, a desperate Dylan can only hurriedly call out after the two of them. In the end, they just ruthlessly leave him stranded all by himself in the middle of the lonely courtyard. Looking down at Lionel's small hand, tightly gripping his wrist, Kai feels an incredibly strange, intoxicating joy welling up in his heart. For the very first time, Lionel chose him over the omnipotent crown prince. He smiles softly to himself, realizing that getting so incredibly happy over this simple gesture means his toxic personality is actually way too easy to please. Lionel tries her absolute best to drag Kai to a very distant, secluded sanctuary deep in the flower garden. She desperately hopes Dylan won't be able to track them down. Looking back at Kai, she feels a bit guilty, stammering, "I'm so sorry for suddenly dragging you out here." But more than anything, she quickly probes to see if this easily provoked raid boss is furious. Kai seems to still be completely immersed in that sweet feeling of happiness from just now, so he even forgets to answer her. When he finally snaps out of his daze, Kai sharply turns his face away, his pale face blushing slightly as he mutters, "From the very beginning, I wasn't actually angry with you." Lionel fiercely knits her eyebrows and gnashes her teeth, letting out an exasperated huff. Kai is completely stunned and caught off guard by her sudden hostility, literally. Lionel, with eyes full of fiery determination, stares intently at a bewildered Kai. She forcefully pushes Kai down to the grassy ground, much to his utter astonishment and shock. She aggressively demands that he obediently look directly into her eyes. Lionel tremblingly expresses, "Just because I'm stupid and hopelessly dense, I didn't realize I made you feel bad. I'm truly sorry." He suddenly cries her heart out, sobbing uncontrollably and pouting. "But if you refuse to talk to me properly, I won't be able to understand anything." Kai is utterly astonished by Lionel's emotional explosion and raw words. Having completely said her piece, the young girl sadly covers her weeping face. "I'm so sorry for using you as a shield, and for not considering your feelings." The more Lionel speaks, the more her tears come pouring out like a waterfall. Kai stares completely blankly at a crying Lionel. Look at this precious little girl. How could he ever bring himself to hate her? But acting out like this, is she perhaps cutely throwing a tantrum at him? He instinctively reaches out his elegant hand to gently wipe away the tears rolling down Lionel's flushed cheeks. Kai instantly returns to his usual polite and gentle self, whispering, "I'm sorry." In his mind, Kai feels that making her shed precious tears just for him isn't a bad feeling either. He gently comforts her. "I clearly took the joke way too far. But you know, even when you're crying your eyes out, you're still ridiculously cute." Hearing these smooth words, Lionel's face turns completely bright crimson red. She instantly stops crying and loudly scolds him, blindly assuming Kai is starting to shamelessly tease her again. But Kai's very next words make her heart flutter in a wild rhythm. He states with absolute gravity that Lionel has completely misunderstood his intentions, because up until this exact moment, Kai has never once viewed her as a mere pastime or a toy. Furthermore, he doesn't plan to casually joke around with her in the future either. Faced with the sudden weight of Kai's raw sincerity, Lionel remains completely clueless and dense, as usual. He gently lifts a silky lock of Lionel's hair and preciously plants a deeply sincere kiss upon it. "I'm already prepared for the worst, so feel free to just throw tantrums and rely on me a little more from now on." After Lionel sincerely expresses her deep guilt to Kai, the two of them formally say goodbye to each other. She walks alone down the deserted, dimly lit hallway to finally return to the ball. Lionel, while walking, keeps obsessively thinking about what just transpired in the garden. When Kai passionately kissed her hair, Lionel's heart at that exact moment beat so fast it went completely out of control. Lionel is thoroughly flustered as she experiences a very different kind of intense emotion that is hard to put a name to. While her mind is a tangled, chaotic mess, a loud voice suddenly rings out, snapping her back to harsh reality. It's the remaining two elite members of the F4 group. Omen asks in sheer surprise, "Wait, is this actually Liam's hidden twin sister?" Lionel never expected them to be able to decode her true identity so quickly. More than anything, these royal nobles are usually so unbearably arrogant, yet they actually approached her to strike up a conversation first. Following strict noble etiquette, Lionel still politely greets them and thanks the two of them for taking care of her brother Liam back at the academy. Lionel formally introduces herself as Liam's twin sister. Omen, being an incredibly extroverted, bubbly person, instantly flashes a bright smile upon seeing this and introduces himself. You can just call me Omen. I heard a rumor that you're having a rather spicy, special relationship with Crown Prince Dylan, huh? Seeing Omen carelessly take the conversation a bit too far into dangerous territory, Bacha coldly pulls his arm back, sharply reminding him, "Mind your tongue, Oman. Lady Nozocalis is strictly Lord Zicky's exclusive fiancé." Omen aggressively rubs his ears, acting like he totally gets the hint. Right after that, Omen smoothly turns around and flashes a suggestive wink at Linnell, expressing his deep regret. "Man, if you didn't already have an overprotective fiancé, we could have definitely chatted a whole lot more." Witnessing this shameless flirting, Bacha is left completely speechless. He evaluates this mysterious girl for a silent moment and then politely introduces himself to Linnell, noting that because he is stationed in the elite magic class, he rarely interacts with Liam. Since there are still high society young ladies waiting for Omen and Bacha back inside, the three of them officially wrap up their conversation there and say goodbye to one another. Linnell silently watches the figures of the two elite guys disappear down the lavish hallway. So it turns out, these legendary F4 guys attend prestigious balls just to hit on vulnerable girls? Right at that exact moment, Zicky's booming voice calls out from behind. He hurriedly runs over, holding her shoulders firmly with an anxious, panicked expression. He frantically interrogates, "Where on earth did you go? Are you unharmed? Since when did you become so close with a guy like Kai? Does he know about you illegally cross-dressing as Liam to infiltrate the academy?" Hearing this dangerous line of questioning, Linnell instantly feels like her tail has been violently stepped on. She hurriedly avoids Zicky's piercing gaze, defensively asking, "Why on earth would you assume something like that?" Linnell is totally giving herself away through her terrible acting. Hearing her directly call Kai by his first name, like that makes an already jealous Zicky even more deeply suspicious. Why exactly did you call Kai directly by his first name like that? Obviously, addressing a high-ranking noble by their personal first name showed just how incredibly intimate they are in their private relationship. But our hopelessly dense MC Linnell doesn't even realize the gravity of it. Zicky's blood instantly boils a little as he tightly knits his eyebrows. He aggressively questions her loyalty, suggesting that maybe her basic self-awareness isn't quite up to par. Since we're already officially engaged to be married, shouldn't you be fiercely keeping your guard up against other men? Linnell can clearly feel Zicky's bubbling anger just because she addressed another man by his first name. But she finds this possessiveness completely unreasonable. Refusing to back down an inch, she shouts back loudly, "If you feel that incredibly uncomfortable when I call someone else by their first name, then fine. From now on, I'll just formally call you Lord Quaggaman." Zicky sees that Linnell is entirely misunderstanding the core issue, but the burning jealousy in his heart doesn't give him the patience to calmly explain. Zicky frowns deeply and growls, "You're really taking things to a toxic extreme." Linnell instantly remembers the lecture she just received from the two elite members of the F4 group. She angrily questions Zicky. "Then why did someone who's constantly away on bloody military expeditions like you even attend this banquet? You're usually busy and completely ignored me like that all night, so what right do you have to lecture me now?" Zicky desperately wants to speak up and clarify, but Linnell completely snaps at him and has already spun around to storm away. Zicky quickly holds Linnell back, offering to take her home, but Linnell violently slaps his hand away and bolts. She declares loudly that she won't ride with him anymore. Linnell storms out toward the waiting carriages, absolutely fuming with pure rage. She fiercely feels that Zicky always gets triggered and angry for absolutely no reason and never puts himself in other people's shoes. Linnell truly cannot comprehend her psychotic fiancé's toxic mindset. Linnell hastily opens the door and steps into the dark carriage, where an unfamiliar coachman suddenly steps up to greet her. She is left a bit puzzled and suspicious by this sudden, unannounced change of coachman. The heavy carriage slowly exits the grand estate. Meanwhile, lurking in the back, someone is silently watching them leave. It's Bacha, the brilliantly sharp, top student of the legendary F4. Too many mind-boggling things have transpired tonight. The stressed female lead's carriage is now on its lonely way back. Linnell sits inside the dark cabin, thinking exhaustedly about the timeline. Suddenly, with a massive, loud thud, the carriage shakes violently and comes to an abrupt, screeching halt, causing Linnell to plunge violently forward from the intense momentum. She painfully rubs her poor forehead, wondering what the hell is going on outside. The coachman outside sharply speaks up to explain that because the rear wheel is deeply stuck in the mud, the carriage can no longer move. Oh, wow. Lynel genuinely feels like tonight is just a never-ending string of bad luck after bad luck. She dejectedly sinks back into her plush seat, letting out a heavy, defeated sigh. Today is truly a terrible day. Muffled, familiar voices can suddenly be heard, conversing outside the door. She nervously wonders, what kind of drama is it this time? A fleeting moment later, the heavy carriage door is pulled open. Dylan suddenly materializes before her eyes. He awkwardly apologizes, explaining that the coachman begged for his royal assistance. Before Dylan can even finish his sentence, both of them instantly freeze in shock. She never expected such an impossible cosmic coincidence to actually happen to her. Left with no other viable option, Lynel reluctantly rides back home with Dylan. The suffocating atmosphere inside the moving luxury carriage is incredibly, painfully awkward. Before this, because her own transportation was temporarily, completely out of commission, Dylan had offered to escort her home. That was the lone reason she agreed, which is exactly why she's currently stuck in this incredibly awkward predicament. I mean, who would have ever thought the Supreme Crown Prince would actually stop his royal carriage just to help a stranded stranger? Dylan instinctively steals a nervous glance at the breathtaking girl sitting directly in front of him. He genuinely didn't expect the stranded person inside the broken carriage to be the very girl he is desperately pining for. Blushing hard, he talks to himself. If I knew it was her, I wouldn't have helped at all. It's a total coincidence, but then again, Dylan looks at her while Lynel also simultaneously steals a glance at him. The two of them are absolutely dying of extreme embarrassment. Inside Dylan's racing head, the cryptic scenes from the glowing flower garden are still swirling around on an obsessive loop. What on earth did Kai mean by that provocative secret talk about her? He honestly doesn't understand. So in the end, he can't help but speak up just to shatter this suffocatingly quiet atmosphere. Lynel immediately perks up her ears to listen closely. Dylan directly asks Lynel what she secretly discussed with Kai. At the mere mention of that dangerous secret, Lynel is utterly startled. She awkwardly avoids his penetrating gaze, stuttering, It's absolutely nothing. This has zero to do with you, Your Highness. Her inner self is screaming in sheer panic. How could she possibly tell the literal executioner? Dylan looks intensely toward a defensive Lynel. He visibly stammers, finding it painfully difficult to voice each individual word, perhaps due to an uncharacteristic wave of pure nervousness. The prince's hands are tightly clasped together. He heavily speaks up. Honestly, we aren't any kind of official fiancé and fiancée, nor are we even casual friends. My deep feelings for you are completely one-sided, Dylan confesses dejectedly. Staring blankly at Dylan's current miserable, vulnerable state, she can't help but blink in sheer disbelief. Once again, a conflicted Lynel feels that he doesn't resemble the ruthless monster who ordered the mass execution of her entire family at all. Lynel heavily swallows her saliva to desperately gather her scattering courage. Right now, the absolute best way out is to speak directly about everything. She looks straight into Dylan's mournful eyes and firmly speaks up. Your Highness, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but please stop putting on that pathetic, wounded look. Dylan is completely astonished and frozen by these blunt words from Lynel. Without waiting for him to form a reply, Lynel relentlessly continues. Even though you're a royal who can get everything handed to you easily, this world isn't actually that sweet. And genuine human feelings are something that cannot be easily obtained or bought. Hearing these heavy words, Dylan unexpectedly doesn't object at all. He realistically understands this bitter truth better than anyone. This easy, tragic agreement makes Lynel feel a bit like she had entirely misjudged his character. The lonely crown prince is only seen quietly leaning his arm against the moving carriage wall. Dylan slowly closes his eyes, agonizingly remembering the traumatic events of his past. His biological mother always stood frozen by the cold window frame. She always watched with dead eyes as his father walked over to the side of another woman, and she fiercely resented everything in pure bitterness. Back then, a helpless Dylan was just a clueless child. The innocent boy always wanted to run over to comfort his weeping mother. That naive, clueless little kid foolishly thought that he himself was also an important, irreplaceable part of his mother's heart. An innocent Dylan had said, I will always stay by your side to protect you, mother. But responding to that naive, pure affection was only a stone-cold, venomous gaze, and sharp words completely devoid of any maternal love. To her, his very existence was just a worthless piece of trash. The shattered little boy back then wasn't nearly mature enough to comprehend the rejection, but now it's crystal clear. The kind of pure affection that Dylan starves for is something he could never obtain. so he won't force his selfish demands on anything or anyone anymore. Dylan slowly opens his eyes after the painful flashbacks of the past finally fade. He accepts his tragic reality and murmurs, "I'm already used to giving everything and receiving absolutely nothing in return." Linnell feels a sharp pang in her chest, realizing the person sitting in front of her doesn't seem inherently evil at all. She subtly steals a glance at every single micro-expression on his handsome face. It's clearly not a calculated lie or a pathetic attempt to cover up a sinister nature. Linnell opens her mouth, fully intending to say something comforting, but Dylan suddenly gestures to her. He sharply reminds her to keep completely quiet for the time being. The carriage is slowly rolling on the quiet, dark trail when suddenly, deeply suspicious sounds echo outside. Abruptly, the entire carriage shakes violently, causing Linnell to completely lose her balance as well. She demands alertly, "What on earth is going on?" Dylan, with a serious gaze suddenly overflowing with pure murderous intent, growls, "It's an ambush." The chaotic noise outside is getting incredibly loud. Based on sheer military experience, the Crown Prince listens closely to the surrounding footsteps, and it seems they have been completely surrounded. He tightly grips the hilt of his sword, sternly ordering Linnell, absolutely under no circumstances, to go outside. He hastily takes off the magical necklace that he himself deeply treasures and wraps it safely around Linnell's neck. This legendary item will definitely protect her life. He is absolutely 100% sure of that. Immediately afterward, Dylan flings open the door and rushes out into the chaos. She can only sit frozen in the carriage, calling out frantically after him, along with the protective aura glowing from the necklace. Meanwhile, Dylan is fiercely wielding this very sword to protect the only person he desperately wants to save. Dylan is dead silent. He intently and sharply observes every single movement outside. A highly organized group of people wearing pitch-black cloaks has appeared out of the shadows, tightly surrounding them. These sinister, cloaked figures had already been waiting in ambush there for hours. The Crown Prince's elite guards seem to have been successfully distracted and separated as well. The killers arrogantly mock, "Who would have thought the proud prince would show up in person? If he had just stayed hidden inside the carriage, at least he wouldn't be terrified out of his mind when crossing over to the afterlife." Dylan doesn't utter a single word. He silently and quickly assesses the current layout of the battlefield. The sheer number of elite assassins is incredibly large, and what they are solely aiming for is Dylan's head on a spike. But Linnell is still trapped inside that fragile carriage. He absolutely, fiercely, cannot let these filthy, low-life bastards touch a single finger of hers. The ruthless leader of the black-cloaked assassins barks the order, "Charge! Kill him!" Dylan tensely and firmly grips his sword. He instantly activates his bloodthirsty apex predator mode, coldly drawing his gleaming sword. In the literal blink of an eye, he has already brutally taken down two of the approaching assassins. The remaining killers look toward Dylan in sheer, terrified astonishment. He is undeniably an absolute beast, even though he barely exerts any unnecessary movement. He still effortlessly executes his opponents. But facing a relentless horde, the Crown Prince is at a severe numerical disadvantage. The leader barks an order. "Everyone swarm him! Take the Crown Prince's head and slaughter the girl inside the carriage!" Dylan is utterly shaken to hear this vicious command. They aren't just plotting his assassination alone. The Crown Prince goes completely berserk with fury, instantly butchering another assassin. He violently chokes that man's neck with an iron grip, roaring out, "Who the hell ordered you bastards to do this?" Well, he is pinning one down. The remaining killers take advantage of the split-second opening to rush forward. Even if we tell you, it won't matter because you're all crossing over to hell anyway. No matter how invincible a god of war he is, fighting off a dozen highly trained professional assassins all at once is a suicidal task. Meanwhile, Linnell is trapped inside the cabin, staring intensely at the glowing necklace Dylan forcefully gave her before leaping into battle. She suddenly discovers that this isn't some ordinary luxury stone. It's an extremely rare magic catalyst that can neutralize high-tier magical attacks. Such an incredibly priceless, life-saving item, and surely the heir to the throne has a far greater right to wear it than her. So why on earth did he prioritize her safety over his own? The sharp clashing of steel violently snaps Linnell out of her thoughts. She anxiously peers outside through the glass window. This is an absolute disaster. He is completely cornered and overwhelmed out there. Dylan is being systematically driven into a corner by the wave of black-cloaked figures. But there isn't a single shred of fear on Dylan's bloody face as he ruthlessly swings his sword to cut down the attackers. In her panicked mind, a clear reality check hits her. Even a child knows Dylan is the crown prince and holds absolute importance to the empire, while a mere marquise's daughter like her isn't even worth comparing to him. She tightly clenches her fists behind the reinforced glass window, gritting her teeth in sheer frustration. Why is the very man she considers her sworn enemy risking his life to protect her? Outside, the assassins shout to one another to redirect their focus onto storming the carriage. But Dylan has already fiercely blocked the entrance, standing like a wall. He midair snatches a dagger from an approaching assassin. He stubbornly refuses to allow a single soul to get near her. Even if he is hacked to pieces, he cannot let them scratch her. That is Dylan's sole driving will at this exact moment. Staring at this man fighting with every single ounce of his being just for her, Linnell's heart violently urges her to help him. The sheer agony and psychological conflict between her horrific past life and present life begin tearing her apart all over again. She looks down at the floor of the carriage, where two sturdy swords happen to be placed ready for action. Her logic and rationality are completely torn over whether she should jump down and fight by his side or not. Linnell suddenly feels a wave of absolute terror if Dylan ever decodes the truth about her. That horrific mass execution event might just repeat itself. But if things drag on like this, Dylan will be brutally killed. The sound of weapons clashing grows even more violent and intense than before. Outside the carriage, Dylan is still desperately trying his absolute best to hold the line. His stamina is clearly hitting its limit. If this keeps up, she will be next on the chopping block. Paradoxically, even when hanging by a thread, Dylan still puts Linnell first without caring about his own life. The assassins quickly realize that they are simply no match for the crown prince in a direct frontal clash, so they shift their strategy to ambush him from his blind spot. A sinister black-cloaked guy crouches stealthily on top of the carriage roof, waiting for the perfect moment while Dylan is occupied fending off two other attackers. He unexpectedly leaps down like a predator, his sharp blade aiming straight for Dylan's neck. Just at that critical millisecond, the carriage door violently bursts open. Linnell leaps down like a flash of lightning, helping the stunned prince parry the lethal strike. The two of them instantly stand back to back in the clearing. Linnell tightly grips the hilt of the sword in her hand. "I've got your back!" Dylan is completely shocked. Why the hell did you leave the carriage? She honestly doesn't understand why she is protecting her supposed enemy, the crown prince, either. Gripping her sword tightly with absolute precision, Linnell declares without a single shred of fear, "I am the eldest daughter of the Nausicaa's house, a proud lineage of knights. Therefore, it is my absolute duty to protect the royal heir. Allowing someone else to die protecting me would bring eternal shame upon my family name."